Chapter 121. Congratulations, you have broken the previous record of 5,500 kg per mu of watermelon production, successfully reaching 6,600 kg. You are rewarded with a synchronized luck value +6. Xingyuan will make a server-wide announcement. Would you like to disclose your information? Looking at the reward before him, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but be stunned. This time, the reward was not an item or a skill, but a direct reward of a hidden attribute. This attribute was the mysterious luck value, which made him both surprised and a little confused. I'm not a profession that opens blind boxes like combat professionist, where a luck value bonus can increase the drop rate when killing monsters. Nor am I a profession that needs to rely on chance for success, where it can improve the success rate or quality. I'm just a farmer. As long as I cultivate crops well, that's enough. This luck value doesn't really help me. Shen Xingyan's first reaction was that luck value wasn't very useful. However, as he thought about it, he suddenly paused. His gaze turned to the farmland in front of him, and then he thought of his wool shearing plan, and his eyes immediately lit up. This luck value might actually be useful. Now, every time I use a profession skill on a crop that is about to mature, I have to go through a careful mental prayer. Click to continue using it with trepidation, and then wait for the star origin world's judgment. But now, with this luck value bonus, won't the success rate of my skill usage increase sharply? My wool shearing plan can also be carried out quite smoothly. Based on this luck value, when I have more farmlands in the future, I can adopt the idea of separate planting that I thought of before. Planting different crops to see if I can further increase this probability. Moreover, according to previous records from reality, it seems that peasant professional also have something called critical hits. For example, a crop that was originally supposed to be of normal quality might critically hit into superior or even outstanding quality, which also relates to luck. Although I haven't encountered it yet, I think this thing definitely exists. Thinking this way, this luck value is indeed very valuable. At this moment, Shen Xingyan's thoughts began to run wild, and various things related to luck value came pouring in. Soon, the corners of his mouth also curved into a smile. Upon seeing the synchronization reward, he was even more pleasantly surprised. If it can be synchronized to the real world, this saves me 60 gold coins. Maybe good things will happen in the real world in the future, so overall, this reward is quite good. Shen Xingyan nodded with great satisfaction. However, Shen Xingyan was wrong about one thing. He underestimated the value of the word synchronization. One must know that the value of hidden attributes cannot be compared with ordinary attributes. If Shen Xingyan had not received synchronized luck value this time, but only a luck bonus in the star origin world, then, when he wanted to extract the luck value to the real world in the future, the cost would probably scare him greatly. But even with Shen Xingyan's current thoughts, he already felt very content. After all, this thing is obviously of great use for his future growth. And based on the principle that things obtained for free are the best, he would not have any feeling of dislike for this reward. Cancel the announcement, take 100 silver coins. Shen Xingyan, very satisfied with this reward, paid the money very generously. And the star origin world also handled the matter very readily. No longer displaying the record-breaking announcement to the entire world, and at the same time, issued the 6 points of luck value. Shen Xingyan saw the prompt disappear and knew that the reward had been issued. He curiously opened his attribute panel to check, but he didn't see any data about luck value. No way, even if luck value is a hidden attribute, but I have a bonus, it should at least show something, right? Why is there no abnormality, and I don't feel anything? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but complain softly. Although he had guessed this outcome, after all, hidden attributes not being displayed is a setting of the star origin world, and can only be viewed through some special channels. For example, his comprehension skill mentioned his own hidden comprehension ability value, and the luck value +6 bonus was obviously not a channel to view luck value. Although Shen Xingyan understood this setting, Not being able to appreciate the specific data still made him feel like he had been tricked, thinking that his reward might have been pocketed by the star origin world. Shen Xingyan, amused by his own thoughts, shook his head slightly, then opened his backpack space. After separating the watermelon from the watermelon vine, he checked their attributes. Item: watermelon superior plus value, 50 copper coins quantity, 6600 attribute, a fruit with good taste. Item: watermelon vine superior plus value, 6 copper coins quantity, 400 attribute, an ingredient for a potion. Seeing that this harvest of watermelon only increased by 4 hours compared to its normal growth cycle, it was actually 1 grade higher than naturally grown peppers. His previous idea that the longer the growth period of long-cycle crops, the higher their quality, was also reconfirmed. Otherwise, it would be somewhat unrealistic to expect a crop to increase in grade with only a 4-hour increase. He subconsciously calculated this harvest, thinking with a smile, just 1 moo of watermelon once sold can yield 330 silver coins. Averaged per day, it's much higher than even the outstanding grade potatoes from before. In the future, I must plant advanced, long-cycle crops. Shen Xingyan happily looked at his profession skill, then kept 100 kilograms of watermelon for himself to eat, and sold all the remaining watermelon and watermelon vines to the Star Origin Mall, receiving a total of 327 silver coins plus 400 copper coins. Including his previous money, he now had 1 gold, 860 silver, and 963 copper coins, which was almost 2 gold coins. What a pity, the speed of acquiring gold coins is still too slow now. I haven't even gathered 10 gold coins. I only hope that tomorrow's strawberry harvest can give me a surprise. Shen Xingyan sighed to himself. If other combat professionists, who started at the same time as him, knew that a farmer had earned a gold coin in just over 20 days, they would probably examine themselves and then hit their heads against the wall in frustration. Chapter 122. Shen Xingyan checked his experience bar and found that he was less than 1,000 experience points away from leveling up. He figured that after harvesting the first plot of strawberry farmland tomorrow, he would be able to complete the transition from level 12 to level 13. All professionals are very keen on leveling up, and Shen Xingyan is naturally no exception. After all, the feeling of attributes suddenly soaring can indeed be somewhat addictive. However, after receiving so many star origin rewards, Shen Xingyan had developed a certain immunity to conventional leveling rewards and did not pursue them as frantically as others. Without trying to sound boastful, what was incredibly difficult for others was quite casual for him. It was simply a matter of course. After checking his attributes, Shen Xingyan began to cultivate and plant the farmland under his feet. With his current physical attributes, it only took him a little over half an hour to officially complete the planting of his 8th plot of strawberry farmland. Afterward, he explained the upcoming work arrangements to Wang Kai and the others, especially emphasizing the recent monster invasion. He instructed them that if they encountered such a phenomenon, they should eliminate it first before proceeding with farmland maintenance. Wang Kai, everything will depend on you when I'm not around. If you truly encounter any risks, remember that the first principle is to protect yourself, understood? Shen Xingyan patted Wang Kai earnestly. Ever since he learned that Wang Kai had a certain level of judgment, his regard for Wang Kai had increased exponentially. After all, crops could be replanted if lost, but if Wang Kai was gone, he would truly be gone. Upon hearing his master's words, Wang Kai gently nodded its skull. Although it didn't fully understand the meaning of its master's words, it would strictly follow the instructions. Shen Xingyan smiled contentedly and then disappeared, returning to the real world. Slowly waking up from his bed, Shen Xingyan checked the time and realized that his younger sister should have already gone to school. Fortunately, he had already prepared breakfast for his sister the previous night. Otherwise, if she went to school on an empty stomach, he, as her elder brother, would seem a bit unfilial. After a quick bite, Shen Xingyan walked to the training room and began his daily workout. Since he didn't need to go out today, he was very focused on his training, without needing to consider other matters, fully immersing himself in the workout. This dedicated training continued until 3 p.m. when the cooldown for comprehension skill was complete, and only then did he stop. Shen Xingyan looked up at the time, and a sigh of emotion escaped him. Before, people used to say that cultivation has no concept of time. Although I understood it then, I didn't have a deep feeling about it. Now, I have a bit of first-hand experience. I didn't even feel much, and 5 or 6 hours had already passed. It really feels like time flies. However, this should also be due to the equilibrium force. This kind of action, which makes one immersed without feeling the slightest boredom, makes training very comfortable, and naturally I forget the time. After sighing, Shen Xingyan checked his attribute panel and found that the progress of equilibrium force had reached 6%. After a slight nod, he directly activated comprehension skill. The target was, of course, power of balance, the skill that could grow. As the insight time arrived, the transparent figure in his mind reappeared. Shen Xingyan, as usual, began to follow the movements of the transparent figure in his mind, gradually optimizing his own movements. Despite Shen Xingyan's greatly improved insight, it was still difficult to quickly reach the standard of the transparent figure's movements. He always felt like his brain said, "I get it," but his body said, "No, you don't." However, he did not feel discouraged. After all, he had grown step by step like this for many years, and he was very experienced in patience. An hour full of growth passed, and as the transparent figure in his mind disappeared, Shen Xingyan slowly stopped his physical movements, yet his mind was still savoring the feeling he had just experienced. Once he had savored it enough, he opened his attribute panel to check the progress gained during this insight period. Upon seeing that the progress of power of equilibrium had reached 26%, Shen Xingyan calculated it, and his face was full of admiration. In just 1 hour of insight, the progress increased by a full 20 points. I knew before that progress during insight was faster, but I didn't expect it to be this fast. This is equivalent to 40 hours of my own training, 40 times the efficiency, truly terrifying. Moreover, with optimized movements, the progress should also have improved. Such a positive cycle is truly motivating. After quietly sighing, Shen Xingyan was about to resume his training. However, at this moment, his star origin card suddenly showed an anomaly. With a thought, the star origin card came into his hand. Picking it up, he saw the following message on the star origin card. "Hello, student Shen Xingyan. Please gather at the school playground on the morning of July 12th to participate in the graduation trial organized by the school. At that time, school teachers will lead you all to the extraterritorial world. Please bring your own equipment." Shen Xingyan looked at this message, feeling a moment of trance, and then gently sighed. These past 20-odd days truly feel like a lifetime. The old me would never have imagined that the me 20-odd days later would experience so many strange events. Counting it, I still have a week before I can go and see what that world in the extraterritorial world looks like. It seems I'll have to find some time in a few days to simply acquire a set of equipment. Wearing clothes with no defensive capabilities feels a bit lacking. Shen Xingyan murmured softly, then temporarily put this thought aside, intending to continue his training. However, he suddenly felt the star origin card in his hand vibrate again. Picking it up, he saw that it was a call invitation from Chu Wai. After connecting, Chu Wai's excited voice came through. "Shen Xingyan, did you see the message from the school? They want us to report to school on July 12th. Even through the star origin card, Shen Xingyan could clearly feel Chu Wai's excitement. "I just saw it. We'll soon be able to step out of this circle and see the outside world." Shen Xingyan responded with a hint of emotion. After all, when they were in school, they often discussed what the outside world was like. They were full of fantasies about it, and now having the opportunity to experience it firsthand indeed made them excited. Chapter 123. That's right, the message also mentioned equipment, and I've already bought it for you. Just pay me back when you earn money. During the call, Chu Wai adopted the stance of a close sibling settling accounts clearly. Listening to Chu Wai's rather transparent excuse, Shen Xingyan chuckled helplessly. How could he not know her intentions? She was simply afraid he would refuse her kindness, he thought for a moment. He had just been wondering what kind of equipment would suit his current status. This was good, too. It saved him the time of thinking about it. Besides, he already owed Chu Wai enough, so one or two more things wouldn't make a difference. Shen Xingyan readily agreed, solemnly promising to repay her many times over in the future. Chu Wai immediately beamed with joy and excitedly chattered to Shen Xingyan about some trial precautions she had learned from her parents. Throughout the conversation, she didn't ask Shen Xingyan what rank he had reached. After all, she knew Shen Xingyan's true situation, and bringing up such a topic would be like rubbing salt in a wound. Shen Xingyan also listened quietly to her cheerful narration, a genuine smile occasionally appearing on his face. Half an hour later, the two ended their call. Shen Xingyan recalled Chu Wai's words, wondering how he could repay this little son's kindness in the future without revealing his own situation. This really is a difficult task. But ultimately, it's because my own strength isn't enough. I still need to cultivate. Shen Xingyan encouraged himself, and his body naturally began to move. Meanwhile, in the cultivation space, while Shen Xingyan was exercising, it experienced its second monster invasion. Ding tilde, it has been detected that there are foreign species invading your cultivation space. Please deal with them promptly to avoid significant losses. At this moment, such a warning announcement echoed in Shen Xingyan's cultivation space. If not dealt with promptly, all the crop here, especially that acre of nearly ripe strawberry, would suffer immense damage. Looking at the direction these little monsters were heading, it was clear they were aiming for this acre of strawberry. But Shen Xingyan, still in the real world, remained oblivious. Fortunately, Wang Kai and its skeletons were present in the cultivation space at this time. Upon hearing the alert, Wang Kai immediately sprang into action, eagerly assigning all combat tasks. Wang Kai directed Lei Fu and Lei Qian to gather all the little skeletons under their command. Making the little skeletons stand in two neat rows, like a wall, blocking the monster's path. A true battle began. If Shen Xingyan were here, he would find that the invading monsters were no longer the previous Chaz, but a group of little rabbits. Their attributes were similar to the previous Chaz, all within the range Wang Kai and its skeletons could handle. Fortunately, the star origin maintenance prompt appeared relatively slowly at this time. Only after Wang Kai and its skeletons had completely eliminated all the little rabbits did the double prompt phenomenon just appear. After eliminating the little rabbits, Wang Kai and its skeletons actually felt a sense of joy, which made them full of motivation to work. They quickly eliminated the double prompt and began their daily leisurely labor. In the real world, Shen Xingyan was unaware of Wang Kai and its skeleton's heroic feat. He continued his exercise until his sister returned in the evening, then finally stopped. Opening his attribute panel, Shen Xingyan checked the progress of his power of balance and found that it had reached 29%, which was double his previous efficiency, far exceeding his expectations. Now my progress per hour has increased to 1%. It seems that the hour of insight time just now had a significant boost for physical exercise. At this rate, in another 2 or 3 days, I will be able to usher in another all-attribute +1 increase. Such a rate of improvement is truly surprising. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan happily went upstairs. After eating with his sister, he went to the cultivation space to use his talent skill. At this moment, he only saw the peaceful working scene of the little skeletons, but did not find any abnormalities. Seeing that the number of little skeletons had grown to 37, he nodded with satisfaction. Thinking that in a few more days, he could completely let go and wouldn't need to manage them too much. Returning to the real world, he and his sister exercised until around 9 p.m. During this period, he also guided his sister. Although his sister could not learn the complete power of balance at present, they shared the same Tao. His guidance of her movements from a fundamental perspective was still very effective. Afterward, he directly returned to the star origin world to cultivate primordial energy, while also recovering his depleted energy. In this peaceful atmosphere, time slowly approached around 3 a.m. This was when the professional skills cooldown was complete, and it was also the time Shen Xingyan had set. At this moment, he awoke from his cultivation state. After standing up, he looked at the first acre of strawberry farmland he had planted earlier. Looking at the mouth-watering strawberries, he silently calculated in his heart. The growth time of the first acre of strawberry has now reached about 48 days and 1 hour. If I use my profession now, it will provide a 5-day acceleration. If successfully cast, the strawberries will mature 3 days and about 1 hour earlier than the normal time. My future wool shearing plan will need to be based on this time, extending it little by little to see what the final harvest will be like. When Shen Xingyan thought of this, he suddenly felt a surge of ambition. He then summoned his clone to deal with the upcoming star origin prompt task. After waiting 2 minutes for his primordial energy to recover, his professional skill was then cast. Ding tilde, it has been detected that you are casting a professional skill on some partially ripe crop. The casting of this skill may fail for this part of the crop. Do you wish to continue? Upon seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan instinctively paused, but after remembering his luck value +6 reward, his confidence instantly grew much stronger. This was his first attempt at a chance after gaining the luck attribute bonus. He thought that luck should at least give him face and let this harvest proceed smoothly. So he only prayed briefly before confirming to continue casting. The primordial energy also left the novice staff in response, directly covering all the strawberry farmland. Chapter 124. As the primordial energy, transformed by the professional skill, acted upon all the farmlands, Shen Xingyan's gaze was fixed on the first farmland of strawberries he had planted. He hoped to predict the outcome in advance from the subtle changes in the strawberry plants. Therefore, when he saw the strawberry plants in front of him begin to show unusual movement, his hands involuntarily clenched slightly. But even with the movement before him, he still couldn't determine the final result. After all, the last time the skill failed, the crop also showed similar movement, and at that time, he thought it had succeeded. However, when he subsequently saw the scene of the strawberry fruits growing rapidly, he dared to conclude that the result this time was perfect. Immediately after, the star origin prompt sound also confirmed his judgment. Congratulations, you have successfully used a professional skill, Farmer Professional Experience +1. Upon seeing this simple prompt, a confident smile suddenly appeared on Shen Xingyan's face. I knew it, the first probability attempt after gaining luck value wouldn't just drop the ball on me. Looking at the farmland of strawberries, which became even more alluring and juicy under the acceleration of the skill, Shen Xingyan instantly became excited, thinking to himself, this time, the strawberry record breakthrough is a sure thing. Under Shen Xingyan's excited gaze, the effect of the professional skill began to rapidly spread across the entire farmland. After a dozen seconds, the effect of the skill disappeared, and all the strawberries returned to their normal growth rate. At the same time, a sign of ripeness appeared above the first farmland of strawberries, and Shen Xingyan, who had already prepared his ready stance, quickly began to harvest. As for the maintenance work on the other farmlands, he entrusted it to his clone and Wang Kai to handle. After summarizing the previous times, and with the addition of the 3 new little skeletons today, he felt that the current labor force was sufficient to handle this wave of rapidly approaching maintenance tasks. Focused on harvesting, Shen Xingyan continued his seemingly rough but highly efficient harvesting movements. The first farmland of strawberries disappeared at an extremely fast rate under his harvesting method. At this moment, Shen Xingyan seemed to have transformed into a bulldozer, pushing straight through. By the time he had put the last strawberry plant into his backpack space, the Star Origin World's Harvest prompt sounded in his ears as expected. Congratulations. You have planted 600 square meters of strawberries this time, with a harvest yield of 920 kilograms, earning 5520 points of farmer professional experience. Upon hearing this prompt, Shen Xingyan immediately jumped up, and his brain began to rapidly secrete excitatory hormones, making him, despite having just worked, not only show no signs of fatigue but instead look radiant. This yield was a full 320 kilograms, higher than the maximum value of 600 kilograms in the real-world data. And the experience value also reached such a new high, enough for him to upgrade a rank. And this was only the experience given by one farmland of strawberries. If all 8 farmlands of strawberries were harvested in the future, that would be over 40,000 points of experience, enough for him to gain several ranks consecutively. This is truly terrifying. Who would have thought that harvesting one plot of land every day could raise one's rank? The speed of acquiring this amount of experience can perfectly rival those high-ranked professionals. It is only from now on that the power of the professional skill truly begins to manifest. And it is foreseeable that as the rank of planted crops increases in the future, the power of the professional skill will become even more prominent. Shen Xingyan exclaimed repeatedly, looking at the clone and Wang Kai busy in the other farmlands, and thought to himself, perhaps only my continuously growing talent skill can match such a powerful skill. And the truth is, it's also thanks to Wang Kai and them. Otherwise, no matter how powerful this skill of mine was, it wouldn't reach such a powerful level in the short term. After a deep sigh, Shen Xingyan quickly turned his gaze back to the sky of the Star Origin world. Because he knew that compared to the upcoming Star Origin reward, the current harvest could only be considered an appetizer. The main event was still to come. Shen Xingyan made no attempt to hide the joy on his face regarding what was about to happen. He just stood there quietly, waiting for the Star Origin's prompt for breaking the record to arrive, and the Star Origin world seemed to know Shen Xingyan's thoughts. A few seconds later, the prompt Shen Xingyan had anticipated appeared before him. Congratulations. You have broken the current record of 750 kilograms per farmland of strawberries, successfully achieving a result of 880 kilograms. You are specially rewarded with the space-type special skill, teleportation, cultivated land area plus 600 square meters. Star Origin will make a full zone announcement. Would you like to disclose the information? Under Shen Xingyan's eager anticipation, the Star Origin World's Record Breakthrough prompt finally appeared. Upon seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan's smiling eyes instantly widened, his gaze fixed on the 4 characters, teleportation in the prompt. He appeared stunned, as if he had been overwhelmed by this surprise. A space-type special skill, and its teleportation, this reward is too incredible. That's teleportation. Shen Xingyan, having reacted, was so excited he could barely speak. It was well known that they had heard in school that some predecessors had obtained this skill, and subsequently entered and exited the layers of disasters as if entering an uninhabited place, making the disasters spin in circles. In the end, they returned without any problems and brought back important strategic materials. At that time, when they heard this feat, everyone longed for the skill of teleportation. Moreover, during the awakening, they saw the base commander suddenly appear in the air. Although they didn't know if the other party used the teleportation skill, that's how it felt to them at the time. That free and mysterious feeling aroused admiration and envy from everyone present, and now he had actually received such a skill reward. Although he could only use it in the Star Origin world for now, once he had money in the future and extracted such an invincible skill to the real world, he would have no worries when going to the extraterritorial world to kill disasters. This Star Origin reward immersed Shen Xingyan in a fantasy of the future. After a long time, a prompt sound awakened him from this state. Would you like to disclose the information? Shen Xingyan looked at the prompt that interrupted him, and far from feeling any anger, he found it incredibly adorable. Chapter 125, Cancel the World Announcement. Facing this adorable prompt, Shen Xingyan said with a slight smile, simultaneously taking out 100 silver coins as before to pay the cancellation fee. After Star Origin World received the money, the announcement prompt instantly disappeared. In its place, an icon resembling a portal slowly appeared and floated in the air. Just as Shen Xingyan was about to examine it closely, the icon suddenly accelerated, and before Shen Xingyan could react, it vanished into his glabella. Shen Xingyan, seeing this phenomenon, didn't feel particularly strange. After all, he had experienced a similar scene when he obtained the clone technique last time. He was already used to it. At the same time, the 600 square meters of farmland rewarded for breaking the star origin record also began to appear. It expanded the land under Shen Xingyan's feet, and at the same time, it renovated this farmland, bringing it to a cultivable state, which saved Shen Xingyan a step in the process. At this moment, Shen Xingyan didn't pay much attention to the situation under his feet. Instead, he quickly opened his attribute panel and rapidly checked the introduction of the teleportation skill. On the attribute panel, directly below the talent skill section, the teleportation skill and its introduction appeared. Teleportation consumes a corresponding amount of primordial energy to instantly move to a designated location. The maximum ratio is 1 primordial energy, 100 meters. The skill cooldown is 10 seconds. After reading the skill's introduction, Shen Xingyan nodded in satisfaction. He calculated in his mind that with his current 44 points of primordial energy, if he used all of it, he could instantly move to a location 4 kilometers away. With such a distance, when facing an enemy, unless he encountered disasters above the king rank where some accidents might occur. For the disaster of the day before yesterday, if he couldn't defeat it and wanted to escape, it would be very easy. Why does this skill have a cooldown? Although the time is relatively short, it prevents me from performing continuous teleportation. These 10 seconds might lead to other unforeseen circumstances. At this moment, Shen Xingyan, with a contented expression, analyzed the skill introduction without any shame, as his heart was already secretly delighted to have obtained this skill. Imagine if in future combat, he were to instantly move behind or above an opponent and directly slash down. Or activate teleportation at the very moment an attack came, achieving perfect evasion. Making the opponent confused and deeply entangled in such an unpredictable scenario. In situations where the disparity is not too great, the final result would only be an overwhelming victory. After carefully appreciating the teleportation skill, Shen Xingyan looked at his experience bar, 8681/4000. His experience had already far exceeded the experience required for leveling up. Just over 300 more experience points, and I could reach 9,000 points, allowing me to level up 2 ranks. What a pity. Shen Xingyan calculated the experience required for leveling up, and found that he was just a little short of being able to raise his rank to rank 14. Which made him sigh slightly. If others knew that Shen Xingyan had such a pretentious thought, they might go crazy and beat him up. After all, they worked themselves to death leveling up for several days, and they might not even gain 1 rank. But this guy, on the other hand, was lamenting not being able to level up 2 ranks. This behavior was truly infuriating. However, Shen Xingyan was completely unaware of this. As compared to most people, his leveling process was indeed very simple. After sighing, he didn't hesitate and directly clicked the upgrade button. Subsequently, the Star Origin upgrade prompt also sounded in his ear. Congratulations, your professional rank has been elevated to rank 13. You are rewarded with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, professional skill cooldown -2%. We hope you continue to strive and improve. With the appearance of the Star Origin prompt, Shen Xingyan's attributes again had a small increase. All 4 main attributes increased by 2 points, and other attributes also saw improvements. The cooldown of professional skills was also reduced to 15%, which could reduce the cooldown time by 3.5 hours every day. When the cooldown reduction reaches 50% in the future, that will be his highlight moment. At that time, no crop would be able to last more than 5 days in his hands. Looking at the numbers in the free attribute column, Shen Xingyan didn't delay and directly allocated all 4 free attribute points to primordial energy, raising its upper limit to 48 points. After admiring the attribute panel with a smile, he opened his inventory, separated the strawberries from the strawberry branches and leaves, and then checked the attributes of this batch of crops. Item: strawberry outstanding value, 1,200 copper coins quantity, 920 attribute, a nutritious and good-tasting fruit. Item: strawberry leaf outstanding value, 10 copper coins quantity, 500 attribute, an ingredient for beverages. Upon seeing the suffix of the strawberry name, Shen Xingyan was slightly surprised. Then he remembered his previous speculation and nodded in understanding. After all, with a growth cycle of over 50 days, the full maintenance by the little skeletons, and the final boost from the professional skill, the appearance of outstanding quality crop was normal. However, when he saw that 1 kilogram of strawberries could sell for 1,200 copper coins, he suddenly became unsettled. One must know that ordinary strawberries were only 500 copper coins per kilogram. The price of outstanding quality had directly more than doubled, which truly caught him by surprise. Shen Xingyan looked at the suddenly increasing amount of money, and the smile on his face could not be suppressed. He was currently in need of money. Then, with a thought, he opened the Star Origin Mall and quickly sold all the crops he had harvested, not even thinking about keeping some for himself to satisfy his cravings. After all, in his opinion, his current economic conditions did not yet allow for such luxurious behavior. The crop sold for 1 gold coin plus 109 silver coins. It was Shen Xingyan's first time earning so much money, which made him smile so much that his eyes seemed to squint. Looking at his wallet, which was nearly 3 gold coins, Shen Xingyan felt his confidence increase, and he looked at the entire farmland with a sense of vigor. It is said that money gives the poor courage. Having lived a poor life for over a decade, Shen Xingyan now truly understood the profound meaning of that saying. Chapter 126. Shen Xingyan called Little Skeleton over, and the man and skeleton cooperated tacitly, planting strawberry seeds in one of the farmlands, continuing their wool-shearing plan for strawberries. However, for the farmland rewarded this time, he did not continue to plant strawberries. Instead, after some thought, he chose to plant 1 mu of tomato seeds with a 1-day growth cycle, planning to test his idea tomorrow, when 2 crops simultaneously meet the conditions for imminent maturity. If a skill application failure occurs, will one of the 2 different crops succeed while the other fails? If his idea is confirmed to be possible, then, when he has more farmland area in the future, he can try planting 2 long-cycle crops simultaneously, which is equivalent to conducting a double wool-shearing plan at the same time. There are 2 benefits to this. First, it greatly reduces the probability of skill application failure, ensuring the success rate of daily record breakthroughs. The final outcome will be one of 3. Either both succeed, or 1 succeeds and 1 fails, significantly reducing the probability of both crops failing. Second, if he's lucky, he can achieve 2 record breakthroughs in 1 day, allowing him to receive double rewards and double the happiness. Thinking about such a scene now, it seems like a dream to him. After all, this is no longer just simple wool shearing, but rather digging for long-term treasure. Anyone who experiences such a thing would find it unbelievable. I wonder if Star Origin World will take any measures or impose restrictions on me for such unrestrained wool shearing. Shen Xingyan, fearing that joy might turn to sorrow, couldn't help but worry. Forget it, I'll take it 1 step at a time. The top priority now is to get the wool. After all, I am still too weak now and must quickly increase my strength. This is all out of helplessness. Shen Xingyan found a suitable reason for his actions in his heart, then immersed himself in the farmland work. Quickly dealing with this wave of Star Origin prompts with Little Skeleton and the others. With a large number of Little Skeleton, and Shen Xingyan and his clone as 2 powerful laborers. This wave of Star Origin maintenance prompts seemed much weaker, completely unlike its initial arrogance. The increase in Shen Xingyan's labor force also meant that the maintenance work, which originally required 2 hours, was completed within an hour and a half. Seeing that the maintenance prompt returned to normal, Shen Xingyan also canceled his clone skill, gave little skeleton some instructions, and immediately returned to the real world. Although it wasn't yet dawn in the real world, he, full of energy, naturally didn't choose to sleep. Instead, he tiptoed to the underground training room and directly practiced his power of balance. It wasn't until 3 hours later, when he saw the skill progress reach 32%, that he finally stopped and began today's entertainment: cooking for his sister. Shen Xingyan, waking up from her room and coming to the living room, also saw her brother busy in the kitchen. Seeing this, she walked over with a smile, curiously checking what her brother was going to cook for her today. Upon discovering there was meat again, her small face showed a hint of struggle. She found that ever since her brother awakened, their family's food standards had risen sharply. Before, when she was at school, she would often be starving even before lunchtime arrived. If it was a day with mostly theory classes, she could still hold on until school was over. But if there were more physical education classes, then exercising on an empty stomach was unavoidable. But the situation now was completely different. After this period of nutritional supplementation, even if it was a full day of physical education classes, she was still full of vitality, as if she had endless energy. All these changes only occurred because her brother successfully awakened, and their diet subsequently improved. This even made her think for a moment that awakening to become a farmer was also a pretty good choice. However, the truth was that Shen Xingyan, this special farmer, would give his sister a physique activation potion every 1 or 2 days, which replenished her body's energy and also stimulated her physical potential. Shen Xingyan, as the person involved, had no idea of the expenses involved. Such treatment for her was probably only available to families with substantial savings. Although Shen Xingyan's savings were not comparable to those families now, his potential was infinite. He didn't feel the slightest bit of pain spending this money on his sister. "Brother, let's eat something vegetarian recently. We've been eating too much meat lately, look, I've gotten fat," Shen Xingyan said helplessly, poking her own face. In her heart, she was thinking of having her brother save some money on food so he could save more to extract attributes sooner. Shen Xingyan had been making some shredded meat for almost every meal recently to supplement his sister's nutrition. The rabbit meat he hunted outside the village before had long been eaten. And recently, they had been eating high-quality meat that Shen Xingyan bought directly from Star Origin Mall. "Nonsense, you're not fat at all, and you're at a stage where you need nutrition. Eating more meat is good, even if you get a little fat, it's fine. After we eat, you should also eat the watermelon in the cabinet. It has a lot of energy too," Shen Xingyan said while stir-frying the dishes in the pot, exhibiting the feeling of a head of the household to the fullest. Shen Xingyan pouted upon hearing this and no longer argued, going directly to wash up. After a nutritious breakfast, Shen Xingyan went to school with a slightly full stomach, while Shen Xingyan plunged back into the training room to exercise. He often said his sister was a workout fanatic, but he didn't know that, in his sister's eyes, he was the true workout fanatic, always choosing to exercise whenever he had time. And it was indeed true. Before he awakened, under the conditions of tedious exercise methods and no way to visually see his exercise progress, he was able to rely on his extraordinary perseverance to push himself into the top few positions in his school under such difficult conditions. Now, the exercise movements are comfortable, and he can see the progress of his exercise in real time. These conditions undoubtedly made him more enthusiastic, and he didn't have the slightest bit of slack. He exercised like this until 3 p.m., raising his skill progress to 40% before stopping, eating some food to recover his depleted stamina. At the same time, he was also waiting for the comprehension skill's cooldown to complete. Chapter 127. Not long after, seeing that the cooldown for the comprehension skill was complete, Shen Xingyan didn't delay. After adjusting his state, he directly activated the comprehension skill with a thought. With this thought, the comprehension skill immediately entered activation mode. Then, that familiar feeling once again enveloped Shen Xingyan's heart. The improvement in his comprehension ability gave him a subtle, ethereal sensation. The transparent figure in his mind also appeared on time, like a personal coach, guiding Shen Xingyan's cultivate. However, as Shen Xingyan followed the transparent figure's cultivate, he always felt something was off. After cultivating for a short while, he thought with some frustration, how come the transparent figure's movements look more and more profound? I feel like my current comprehension ability can't keep up with his rhythm anymore. Is this the limit of my current comprehension ability? It's probably due to insufficient primordial energy. It would be great if my comprehension ability value was higher. Shen Xingyan analyzed it and concluded that his current comprehension ability value was too low, causing the little man's progress to be too far ahead. But ultimately, it was because he had too little primordial energy. So much so that the increased value of his comprehension ability could no longer meet his current needs, which made his demand for primordial energy even more urgent. In this state of somewhat insufficient comprehension ability, an hour passed and the insight time ended. Shen Xingyan also emerged from his focused state. Slightly dazed, he carefully savored the feeling he had just experienced, feeling a sense of loss. After all, that kind of high-intelligence clarity was truly captivating. In contrast, his current state felt somewhat muddled. He then checked the progress of power of equilibrium and found that, just like yesterday, the progress had increased by 20%, reaching an overall progress of 60%. Although the efficiency increase was slightly less compared to yesterday's 1 hour, overall, it was still quite objective. Calming his mind, he continued to cultivate. 3 hours later, sensing that his sister had returned, he stopped cultivating. As he walked downstairs, he checked the progress of the power of equilibrium skill and found that it had reached 64.5%. Calculating this, his improvement per hour had reached 1.5%. It seems that with my current comprehension ability, 1 hour can only increase the efficiency of power of equilibrium by about 0.5%. Shen Xingyan subconsciously shook his head and sighed. But this is also good. There are new improvements every day, making the upgrade of power of equilibrium faster and faster. A moment later, after having dinner with his sister, Shen Xingyan went directly to the cultivation space and activated his talent skill. The number of little skeletons reached 40. A group of skeletons standing together looked quite substantial. Afterward, Shen Xingyan did not return to the real world to continue cultivating. After all, according to his calculations, he would be able to use his professional skill around 2 a.m. tonight to harvest the crop from the second strawberry farmland and the tomato farmland. This was also the time to verify his idea. Moreover, Shen Xingyan, who had been cultivating power of equilibrium all day, was also somewhat tired at this point. While his body had nutritional supplements, his mental energy was quite fatigued. Although his mental energy in the star origin world had reached 26 points, which could support him staying awake for 2 or 3 days. However, this was only mental energy in the star origin world. Before it was synchronized with the real world, it did not improve Shen Xingyan's mental energy at all. It only increased spell attack power. His mental energy still relied on the 11 points of mental energy bonus from the real world. After eating a tomato, Shen Xingyan sat on the ground and activated the cultivate function. Looking at the increasingly vast farmland and the various small particles arriving in succession, his heart felt incredibly peaceful. Unconsciously, drowsiness came over him and he lay down, entering a state of meditation. Time flowed slowly in the cultivation space, like a moving picture of a tranquil and beautiful farmland, making one feel a sense of peace upon seeing it. However, in such a scene, Shen Xingyan, who was sound asleep, was awakened by a prompt from the star origin world. Ding tilde, it is detected that there are foreign species invading your cultivation space. Please deal with them in time to avoid significant losses. Shen Xingyan, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly opened his eyes upon hearing this prompt. However, because he was in a cultivate state, he couldn't make large movements. At this moment, because he had set a 7-hour cultivate time, he couldn't break free from this state, which made him anxious for a moment. However, just as Shen Xingyan was fretting, the little skeletons working in the farmland began to move. Under Wang Kai's lead, the little skeletons, like a well-trained army, began to quickly assemble in a square formation like a wall to deal with the monster's attack. Sitting far away and unable to move, Shen Xingyan's eyes lit up at this sight, pleasantly surprised that the little skeletons had such a side to them. Then he feared that the monster coming this time was too strong, so he focused his gaze on the invading monster, a little rabbit, and checked the rabbit's attributes name. Weakened rabbit strength, 3 points agility, 5 points physique, 2 points spirit, 1 point HP, 20/20 points physical attack, 3 points spell attack. 1 point defense, 2 points speed, 5 points after seeing the little monster's attributes. Shen Xingyan finally relaxed, but his eyes were constantly on the situation on the battlefield. And he also occasionally checked the maintenance prompts above the farmland, fearing his first task stagnation penalty would appear. Under Shen Xingyan's gaze, the little skeletons dealt with the little monster's attack in a very methodical way. Thus, more than 10 minutes passed. The battle between 40 little skeletons and over 100 rabbits finally ended with the little skeletons' victory. At this time, the crop in the farmland had just begun to show double prompts. With the current maintenance prompt frequency, the little skeletons had plenty of time to respond. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan finally felt completely at ease, recalling the battle with emotion. I didn't expect Wang Kai and them to have such excellent team combat talent. It's as if every little skeleton has been trained, obeying orders strictly. Is this also a hidden talent of theirs? Chapter 128. A long time ago, I heard that the disasters from the extraterritorial world often use human wave tactics to fight against the human race. It's a mindless, Chinese letter that takes advantage of the innate limitations of the human race's physical strength and energy. Now that I have this group of innate, well-trained little skeletons, once I accumulate enough talent stones and the little skeleton's attributes are high enough, I'll go to the extraterritorial world. At that time, with a wave of my hand, a group of unrestricted skeleton warriors will appear on the battlefield, sweeping across the enemy with an unstoppable momentum. That scene would truly be magnificent. At this moment, Shen Xingyan, who had guessed that the little skeletons possessed this talent, felt very satisfied and began to imagine freely. However, due to the distance, he didn't notice the wisps of green smoke integrating into the little skeletons' bodies. After his grand imaginings, Shen Xingyan lay down again, quietly immersing himself in sleep. This time, even if a star origin warning appeared again, he wouldn't react as strongly as before. He'd probably just glance up briefly and then continue sleeping. There was no other way. The existence of the little skeletons filled him with immense peace of mind. As Shen Xingyan slept peacefully, unknowingly, the 7 hours of cultivation time he had set earlier arrived, and Shen Xingyan awoke from his meditative state. Feeling exceptionally energetic at this moment, he sat up and stretched his limbs extensively, simultaneously savoring the invigorating sensation of being full of energy. Looking at the comfortable farmland scene before his eyes, breathing in the tranquil and natural aura in the air, it was as if the battle from a few hours ago had never happened. Shen Xingyan's entire mind unconsciously emptied, and he himself seemed to relax. In this state, the passage of time also seemed to slow down. After a while, Shen Xingyan, having quietly enjoyed this tranquility, also thought of the important business he had to attend to next. With a thought, his attribute panel unfolded before him. Looking at the farmer skill that was already available for use, and then at the current time, he wasn't in a hurry to use it. Instead, he waited quietly for a while, continuing to admire the scene before him, and feeling increasingly satisfied with the little skeletons working in the fields. Then, seeing that the time was approaching 2 a.m., he finally took action. Standing up, he first summoned his clone, whose all attributes were 24 points. He then waited for 3 minutes for his primordial energy to fully recover, and precisely at 2 a.m., he cast his farmer skill. As the farmer skill was activated, primordial energy skillfully gathered on his novice staff, and at the same time, a star origin prompt sounded. Ding tilde, it has been detected that you are casting a farmer skill on some crops that are about to mature. There is a possibility of failure when casting this skill on these crops. Do you wish to continue? Looking at this warning prompt that was blocking him, although Shen Xingyan was already used to it, he still checked it word by word to see if there was any difference from before. However, the result disappointed him. The entire prompt was exactly the same as before, and it was unlikely for him to deduce any information from it. He then no longer delayed and directly confirmed to continue. As Shen Xingyan confirmed, 45 points of primordial energy on his staff instantly detached and acted upon the 9 acres of farmland before him. After a gentle wave, Shen Xingyan put away his staff. Although he knew the prompt would tell him the final result later, his gaze still moved back and forth between the strawberries and tomatoes. Congratulations, you have successfully cast a farmer skill, and your farmer experience points have increased by 1. Shen Xingyan, who was focusing on the 2 target farmlands, was a little stunned after hearing this prompt from Star Origin, and then he felt a bit speechless. I really didn't expect my luck to be so strong. Even though both types of crops were past their maturity period, the skill didn't fail. Although the successful casting of the skill is a good thing, this means I won't be able to verify my previous idea. This truly is a joyful kind of trouble. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but scratch his head with a sigh. After Star Origin World suddenly gave such a prompt, he was momentarily unsure how to proceed. However, the Star Origin prompt didn't give Shen Xingyan time to ponder this question. After more than 10 seconds, a surge of maintenance prompts struck again, and at the same time, the 2nd acre of strawberry farmland and tomato farmland also showed a mature indicator. Shen Xingyan could only temporarily set aside this thought and arrange for his clone and Wenkai to deal with the maintenance prompts, while he slowly walked to the acre of strawberry farmland that could be harvested. Just like yesterday, he began the slightly simple and crude, yet highly efficient, strawberry harvesting operation. Today's strawberry harvesting time, compared to yesterday's, I deliberately extended by 1 hour. According to my estimation, the final yield should increase, but I don't know by how much. Shen Xingyan pondered, but his hand movements showed no sign of slowing down. Eager to see the results, he harvested faster and faster, ensuring not to damage the strawberry fruits. In this careful yet rough harvesting, it didn't take long for all the ripe strawberries from this acre to be collected into Shen Xingyan's backpack space. And Star Origin World didn't make the eager Shen Xingyan wait long. Almost as soon as he finished harvesting, Star Origin's harvest prompt appeared beside his ear. Congratulations! You have planted 600 square meters of strawberries this time, with a harvest yield of 935 kilograms, and you have gained 5610 experience points for the farmer profession. Looking at this prompt, with the harvest weight of 935 kilograms, which was 15 kilograms more than the previous record of 920 kilograms, Shen Xingyan was overjoyed. Although it was just a simple 15 kilograms, it was his stepping stone to unlocking the record-breaking reward, and it was also the advantage he could rely on in the future. This 15 kilograms verifies my wool-gathering plan, proving that it is indeed feasible. Now, let's see what kind of reward Star Origin World will give me for breaking the record with such an increase. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but look up at the sky with anticipation, eagerly awaiting, and Star Origin World didn't make Shen Xingyan wait long. Just over 10 seconds later, it directly publicized the answer Shen Xingyan had been hoping for. Chapter 129. Congratulations, you have once again broken your previous record of 920 kg of strawberry yield per acre, successfully reaching 935 kg. You are specially rewarded with permanent use of 100 cubic meters of storage space on your Star Origin card. Star Origin will make a full zone announcement. Would you like to make your information public? Shen Xingyan's eyes, which were already full of anticipation, became even brighter when he saw this reward. His enthusiasm seemed to materialize, no less than when he previously obtained the teleportation skill. His expression was also noticed by Wang Kai, Lei Fu, and Lei Qian, who were monitoring their master's movements nearby. They couldn't help but tilt their little skeleton heads in confusion. Then, they all looked at the prompt in the sky, but they couldn't understand what it meant. However, they knew that anything that could make their powerful master so excited must be something extraordinary at this moment. Shen Xingyan was already overjoyed. He muttered excitedly, "I really didn't expect this reward to be the storage space function of the Star Origin card." Breaking the record has once again brought a new type of reward. Star Origin World really knows how to surprise me. I've long heard that the Star Origin card has a storage function, but it requires a lot of money to activate it. Moreover, the size of the space is basically determined by the amount of money. And there are also time restrictions, which depend on how much money is paid to customize the duration. It's equivalent to needing to pay rent to Star Origin World to use the storage space. If one wants to obtain permanent use of the storage space, the cost is prohibitive for everyone. Therefore, many people choose to renew it little by little, treating it as a long-term investment. Just like when I extracted items to the real world before, they could only be temporarily stored in the storage space and would disappear immediately after being taken out. Even just like that, I felt a lot more convenient, let alone having my own separate storage space, and now it's great. This record-breaking reward directly granted me permanent access to 100 cubic meters of storage space. With this reward, everything will be much more convenient in the future. Shen Xingyan thought happily. He loved this storage space reward very much. He imagined being able to store and retrieve any needed items at will, without any restrictions. It would undoubtedly be much more convenient when going out in the future, and his survival would be more secure. Would you like to make your information public? With joy evident on his face, Shen Xingyan, upon seeing Star Origin World's question, quickly paid the 100 silver coins to cancel the announcement and successfully accepted this permanent reward. After receiving the reward, Shen Xingyan was not in a hurry to go to the real world to experience the novelty brought by this storage function. Instead, he focused on the experience bar in his attribute panel. Seeing the experience value instantly soar to over 10,000 due to harvesting an acre of strawberry, which had already exceeded the experience needed for upgrading, he nodded with satisfaction. Looking at the upgrade prompt behind the experience bar, he clicked upgrade without hesitation. Congratulations! Your professional rank has been elevated to rank 14, rewarding you with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, professional skill cooldown -2%. We hope you continue to work hard and improve. As the upgrade prompt sounded, Shen Xingyan's stamina and primordial energy values instantly recovered to full, and his body attributes also received corresponding improvements. The cooldown reduction of his professional skill also increased again, reaching 17%. If he wasn't planning to milk the system, with such a cooldown reduction, progressing day by day, he could use his professional skill one more time in 5 or 6 days. Shen Xingyan simply glanced at these expected improvements. Then he looked at the 4 free attribute points in his attribute panel. Although his current 48 primordial energy points still had some left after casting his professional skill, he didn't hesitate at all and directly allocated the free attribute points to the primordial energy attribute, bringing it to 52 points. After all, almost all of his skills currently rely on his primordial energy limit. The higher the limit, the more powerful his skills will be, so increasing primordial energy is imperative. He then opened his backpack space, separated the strawberry from the strawberry leaves, and found that their quality was the same as the previous strawberries, both premium grade. After a slight nod, he decisively sold them, receiving a total of 1 gold coin and 127 silver coins, which was equivalent to 110,000 yuan before the primordial energy outbreak. An acre of strawberry could yield such results. If the human race from before the primordial energy outbreak knew about it, they would probably be amazed. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but laugh, marveling at how his life was getting better and better. Then, without any delay, he looked at the acre of already ripe tomato. Although the successful use of his professional skill this time was somewhat unexpected, and he couldn't verify his previous idea, the harvest still had to be done. After all, even a small mosquito is meat, and he wasn't picky. And the final tomato harvest was as he expected, only reaching about 310 kilograms. Although the final yield was slightly higher than last time, it did not break Xingyuan's yield record. After selling all the harvested crops to Star Origin Mall, Shen Xingyan's total assets reached 4 gold, 56 silver, and 440 copper, finally breaking through 4 gold coins. And it's foreseeable that the money he harvests will only increase in the future, and extracting primordial energy to the real world will no longer be a distant matter. After a refreshing daydream, Shen Xingyan called over his clone. Utilizing the clone's high attribute values, the two of them worked together to quickly till the 2 acres of farmland, bringing them into a plantable state. Then, after replanting an acre of strawberry, Shen Xingyan told his clone to continue with maintenance work, while he looked at the other acre of farmland that needed planting. And couldn't help but fall into contemplation. Should he continue to experiment with his previous idea and plant a 1-day growth cycle tomato? Or should he directly start planting long-cycle crops? These 2 choices left him somewhat indecisive for a moment. Chapter 130. After some thought, Shen Xingyan still chose to continue verifying, as planting long-cycle crops wouldn't make much difference in a day or 2. It was better to plant some short-cycle crops first to clarify the specific situation. After all, it was still in the initial stage, and clarifying it early could provide necessary reference for future plans. Subsequently, Shen Xingyan went to the Star Origin Mall and purchased another acre of tomato seeds, quickly sowing them. He was already very skilled in these farming tasks, and his sowing efficiency had improved again. After completing the tomato planting, he didn't idle, but went to help Wang Kai and the others deal with the Star Origin maintenance notifications. With his addition, the entire maintenance process saw a significant improvement. With 40 little skeletons plus Shen Xingyan and his clone, 2 high-attribute laborers, under the battle of this massive labor force, the Star Origin maintenance notifications began to subside after more than an hour, their appearance gradually slowing down and returning to normal little by little. Feeling somewhat relaxed and comfortable, Shen Xingyan saw that everything was done and did not linger. Returning directly to the real world with a thought, as there was still storage space awaiting his exploration there. Back in the real world, Shen Xingyan, whose curiosity could no longer be contained, opened his eyes from the bed, flipped over and jumped down, then with a thought, a Star Origin card instantly appeared in his hand. Carefully observing this mysterious Star Origin card, he saw that on its dark surface. In the lower right corner, there were 2 small icons that only Shen Xingyan could see, a leaf and a box. Shen Xingyan naturally knew about the leaf icon. It was automatically imprinted on the Star Origin card when he acquired the comprehension skill, representing the image of a Bodhi leaf. As for the other box, it was self-explanatory. It must be his storage space. Seeing this, a look of joy appeared on Shen Xingyan's face, and he then directed his thoughts towards the box icon. As his thought touched the box icon, a 100 cubic meter space instantly appeared before his eyes. At this moment, in Shen Xingyan's eyes, this space seemed to have undergone spatial overlap, passing through all obstructions without hindrance, appearing directly and intuitively before him. I heard that this storage space, like the information within the Star Origin, can only be seen by oneself. Even if others are powerful, they cannot detect it at all, as if it has a binding function. It's truly amazing. Shen Xingyan marveled at this spacious area, then directly threw the pillow by his hand into it. Upon seeing the pillow floating quietly in the air and being able to move with his thoughts, he understood the state of stored items. He nodded slightly, and after conveying the thought to put it away, the space before him instantly retracted. And everything returned to normal, except his pillow had disappeared. After roughly mastering the basic functions of the storage space, he tried to see if he could store and retrieve items without specifically opening the storage space. After some attempts, he found that such operations did not require opening the storage space. He could perform them freely using his own thoughts. Upon learning that he could operate this way, Shen Xingyan was like a child with a new toy, beginning a series of storage and retrieval operations. He even grandiosely called this somewhat childish behavior, familiarizing himself with such operations for future convenience. Presumably, only he knew his true purpose. After a while, Shen Xingyan's novelty with the storage space gradually faded, and he was already very familiar with all the operations. Then he went to the training room and began a new round of daily exercise. I still have to keep exercising. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I cannot be complacent. Shen Xingyan encouraged himself silently while exercising nonstop. Shen Xingyan had received too many surprises recently, and most of them were things others only dreamed of. Under the invasion of these surprises, he was indeed a bit dizzy. From time to time, he would imagine that even if he didn't exercise, he could reach a height that other professionals could only dream of, relying on his current abilities. Often at this time, another voice in his mind would begin to tempt him. Stop exercising. Why suffer this hardship? Even if you start to lie flat and relax now, it's nothing. With these blessings from heaven, your future is destined to be extraordinary. Why not start enjoying life now? This very tempting voice would occasionally appear in his mind, causing a moment of confusion in his thoughts. If such a thing happened to other young people, they would probably have given in long ago and enjoyed the comfort. However, although Shen Xingyan appeared to be just an 18-year-old boy, after so many years of poverty and hardship, plus having a younger sister to take care of, his resolve was comparable to those who had undergone long-term ascetic practice. Real life taught him a truth. What others say or promise should not be entirely disbelieved, but also not entirely believed. Ultimately, he was the master of his own life. No matter what kind of script appeared, he needed to walk through it step by step to see if it was true or false. Shen Xingyan, with firm resolve, did things that others might consider foolish, but he believed were right. After 4 hours of exercise, the equilibrium force had reached 70.5%. Shen Xingyan then stopped, exhaled a soft breath, rested for a moment, and then went downstairs to prepare for his sister's school day. After watching his sister leave, Shen Xingyan looked at the gray sky outside, which indeed couldn't compare to the sky in the planting space. He gave up the idea of going out for a stroll and resumed yesterday's routine. He pushed the progress of power of equilibrium to 82% before the insight time in the afternoon arrived. Seeing the comprehension skill about to complete its cooldown, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but murmur softly, "I've finally reached over 80% progress." In that case, after using the comprehension skill, with a 20% progress increase, the equilibrium force should be able to upgrade, right? Shen Xingyan muttered to himself while wiping off the sweat from his body, feeling much more refreshed. Looking at the skill description for Power of Balance, with its passive all-attribute +1 and active attribute transfer skill, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but feel a little anticipation. Chapter 131. Shen Xingyan had just adjusted his state when the cooldown for his comprehension skill arrived as expected. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan, who was already prepared, didn't waste any time and immediately activated it with a thought, entering a state of insight. As the insight period began, that familiar sense of clarity once again filled Shen Xingyan's mind. The transparent figure also appeared in his mind at the same time, as if sensing Shen Xingyan's thoughts. He began to practice the movements of the power of equilibrium without further ado. Shen Xingyan saw the magical rhythm in the transparent figure's movements and felt it was full of attraction. He began to follow the transparent figure with practiced ease, simultaneously sensing the charm and kai flowing within the movements. As the practice progressed, Shen Xingyan's feeling for the power of equilibrium became more profound, and his understanding of its movements improved at a steady rate. Time seemed to suddenly speed up in his immersed state. Shen Xingyan only felt that not much time had passed, yet the 1-hour insight period was about to end. And as the 1-hour insight period was nearing its end, he suddenly felt a refreshing sensation from within his body. As if a long-suppressed potential had finally been released, leading to an overall improvement in his strength. At this moment, Shen Xingyan, with a sudden flash of insight, knew what had happened. With a slight thought, his star origin card automatically adhered to his forehead, and the attribute panel unfolded. Shen Xingyan, who was still practicing his movements, quickly confirmed his thoughts in the state of multitasking. The power of balance had leveled up. After a brief look at the introduction of the power of equilibrium now at rank 2, Shen Xingyan smiled slightly, somewhat satisfied, and temporarily put away his star origin card. At the same time, his hand movements showed no sign of stopping, continuing until the insight period ended, and only then did he slowly cease his body's movements. After standing still, Shen Xingyan gently calmed his mind after the exercise, then picked up his star origin card to examine it carefully. Power of Balance rank 2, passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 2. Active, consumes 4 points of primordial energy, activates equilibrium force. Can temporarily transfer 4 attribute points to a designated attribute, lasts 2 minutes, cooldown 10 minutes. Current progress, 2%. Shen Xingyan subconsciously began to compare the attribute changes of the power of equilibrium before and after leveling up. Secretly analyzing in his mind, it seems that every time the power of equilibrium increases by 1 rank, all 4 attributes will receive a +1 increase, and at the same time, the consumption of the active skill and the transferable attribute points will also increase. In just a few days, I've increased all my attributes by another point. This comprehension skill, combined with equilibrium force, allows me to make faster progress every day. Its efficiency is truly astonishing. Although this upgrade was only a basic improvement, Shen Xingyan was already very satisfied. After all, if it were his past self, wanting to increase all attributes by 1 point might have been possible in the early stage of awakening. But it would clearly be impossible in the late stage, let alone thinking about such rapid improvement. Strength, 16 points, agility, 16 points, physique, 17 points, spirit, 12 points. Shen Xingyan admired his 4 main attributes, a sigh of emotion escaping him. How could my past self have imagined that in just over 20 days I could reach such a level without extracting attributes from the star origin world, possessing so many attribute points? With such attribute values, even compared to those wealthy combat professionists, I probably wouldn't be much inferior. Moreover, I also have 3 entry-level martial skills as attack methods. When facing the top professionals of their time, I don't think I would be at a disadvantage. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan's confidence soared unprecedentedly. For the trial in a few days, if a combat professional were to provoke him, he now possessed a level of confidence that a life professional shouldn't have. Shen Xingyan smiled and put away that thought, then continued to train. At the same time, he also wanted to see how much progress the upgraded equilibrium force would gain after an hour of training. However, after 3 hours of focused training, when he checked the skill progress, he was surprised to find that it had reached 8%. Excluding the 2% increase at the very end of the comprehension skill, he had gained 6% from 3 hours of training, which meant he was now gaining 2% per hour. This discovery left Shen Xingyan somewhat bewildered, because in his opinion, the progress of the upgraded equilibrium force should definitely be more difficult to improve. Just like leveling up in the star origin world, where the experience needed for each level always increases. However, the current situation was that the difficulty of improving rank 2 equilibrium force was exactly the same as when it was rank 1. This conclusion left Shen Xingyan momentarily dumbfounded. Although such a result is very good and powerful, it's too unreasonable. If I extrapolate based on this progress, my future leveling speed will only get faster and faster. If after training with the comprehension skill every day, there's a 0.5% increase, then it won't be long before my hourly improvement can reach 5% or even higher. At that time, I would only need to train 10 hours a day to gain 50% and 2 days to gain 1 rank. And this is without considering using the comprehension skill to boost progress. This is simply incredible. Shen Xingyan was shocked by his own thought, then he shook his head in disbelief. He felt that the result of this calculation should be inaccurate, thinking that the difficulty would definitely increase after future rank ups. However, he was still very pleased with the current improvement. At this rate, by the day of the trial, perhaps I might even be able to raise the power of equilibrium to rank 4, who knows? Shen Xingyan felt very satisfied with this unexpected surprise. He then composed himself and went downstairs to cook for his sister, also taking it as a way to relax. "Brother, is there a lot of farming work in Xingyun lately? You look so tired." Shen Xingying had just returned home when she saw her brother sitting at the dining table, looking exhausted and waiting for her, and couldn't help but frown in concern. And Shen Xingyan, who had been training from around 3 in the morning until just now, was indeed quite tired. Even though equilibrium force could soothe the body, it still caused some drain on his energy, which made Shen Xingyan appear somewhat fatigued. Chapter 132. No, it's just that I've been cultivating for a bit longer than usual. It's nothing, you should go wash your hands and eat. Shen Xingyan replied with a smile, waving his hand, indicating that he was fine. And he wasn't wrong when he said a bit longer. 14 or 15 hours was indeed a bit long. Seeing her brother say this, Shen Xingying didn't doubt him, but she looked at her brother with a pained expression, her small face full of pity. She quickly walked behind her brother and began to gently massage him, trying to alleviate his mental fatigue. Shen Xingyan chuckled and enjoyed it for a moment, then urged his sister to go eat quickly. As the siblings ate, Shen Xingyan listened to his sister chatter about interesting things from her class, while he quietly listened, acting as a patient audience. At the same time, he savored the unique piece of reality. Before, when the two siblings ate, it was also filled with laughter, but living constantly on the poverty line, they always felt overshadowed by a cloud. The relentless pressure of the real world made their laughter seem like a forced attempt at finding joy in suffering. However, the current situation was completely different. Shen Xingyan's special professional skill and innate talent filled him with confidence for the future, and his sister, Shen Xingying, was also influenced by this aura. Out of her heartfelt trust in her brother, she became more lively and cheerful, making this peaceful scene appear exceptionally pure and warm. After dinner, Shen Xingyan returned to his room and connected his consciousness to Star Origin World. After a brief check of the farmland, which showed no abnormalities, he immediately used his innate skill to expand his little skeleton team to 43 members. Then he looked at the third strawberry farmland and the tomato farmland, calculating their growth time in his mind. Combining this with his plan to milk the system, he determined that 1 a.m. would be the most suitable time for harvesting. Seeing that there wasn't much time left until then, Shen Xingyan didn't return to the real world. Instead, he walked directly to the familiar spot and began his origin energy cultivation and comfortable sleep. As the cultivation began, the surrounding primordial energy particles started to surge towards him. Seeing those particularly noticeable light green particles, which were more numerous than before, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but feel a wave of confusion. Why do these green particles seem to be increasing? I don't know what they do. Could they speed up cultivation? Without any basis, he could only rely on pure imagination to guess. Lost in thought, he unconsciously drifted into a state of sleep. During the subsequent origin energy cultivation, he heard the star origin notification of a monster invasion, just as he had last time. With little change in his mood, he merely opened his eyes slightly to check. And upon seeing that it was still a small rabbit, he paid no further attention, closing his eyes and continuing to sleep. His state was as if the monster invasion had nothing to do with him at all. He slept soundly. If such a scene were witnessed by those farmer seniors at level 30 or so, they would probably be driven to envy and madness. After all, only they could truly understand the despair of watching their farmland being destroyed while being powerless because they were in a cultivation state. Even with their high attributes at level 30 or so, they could only feel a deep sense of helplessness regarding such irregular monster invasion events, as they couldn't maintain 24 hours of energy to deal with such emergencies. Yet, Shen Xingyan, at only level 10-something, had already solved this troublesome problem that plagued countless farmer seniors. It was truly an incredible feat. Shen Xingyan, however, was not deeply affected by this and remained unaware. After sleeping for a full 6 hours, he emerged from his cultivation state. Upon waking, the mental fatigue from a day of cultivation immediately returned to full, and Shen Xingyan felt completely re-energized and vibrant. He walked over to Wang Kai, affectionately patting Wang Kai's little skeleton head, commending him for his calm command during the recent monster invasion operation. Wang Kai, while I hope you continue to work hard in the future, you shouldn't overwork yourself. Didn't I find you 2 subordinates? You can delegate tasks to them, and you can rest a bit, can't you? Shen Xingyan softly said to Wang Kai. Although Shen Xingyan sometimes envied the little skeleton's ability to not require long periods of rest, he also had a faint worry. After all, Wang Kai had already developed basic judgment abilities and possessed a certain level of sentience. If this hard-won sentience were to disappear due to prolonged lack of rest, it would be a significant loss. Therefore, whenever Shen Xingyan had time, he would convey instructions to Wang Kai to rest appropriately, preventing the hypothetical event he worried about from occurring. While Shen Xingyan's guess might have been somewhat alarmist, it wasn't entirely wrong. After all, Wang Kai had already developed sentience, so it wouldn't disappear due to long-term labor, as this was already an established fact. However, by a stroke of luck, he had inadvertently touched upon an important characteristic possessed by those advanced skeleton generals: the ability to rest. Although little skeletons, as undead beings, innately did not require rest and could maintain their full combat effectiveness as usual. However, if a little skeleton like Wang Kai, after developing sentience, were to rest appropriately, it would indeed have a certain positive effect on the improvement of its sentience. Upon hearing his master's words, Wang Kai nodded gently, although at present it still didn't quite understand why it needed to do so. But since its master had said it, it had to be carried out. This was its most fundamental principle. After chatting with Wang Kai for a while, Shen Xingyan saw that the previously planned time was almost up. He stood up and began the day's main business. Equipping the novice staff, he summoned his clone, used a potion to restore his primordial energy, and then waited a few more minutes. Upon seeing his primordial energy return to full, Shen Xingyan silently mused, "I hope this time I can verify my idea." Then he looked at the 3rd strawberry farmland, which was about to mature, and then at the tomato farmland. With a slight thought, he directly activated his professional skill. "Ding tilde, it has been detected that you are casting a professional skill on some crops that are about to mature. The casting of this skill may result in failure for these crops. Do you wish to continue?" As primordial energy gathered at the tip of his staff, this familiar yet frustrating prompt appeared in his ear. Shen Xingyan now didn't know whether to hope for success or failure. He could only hope for the prompt he imagined to appear. Chapter 133. Shen Xingyan held a slight hope in his heart, and with a thought, he conveyed the command to confirm continuation. As this thought appeared in Shen Xingyan's mind, the gathered primordial energy instantly detached from the staff and began to act upon all of the farmlands. After sensing this change, Shen Xingyan's gaze also turned towards the 2 mu of nearly mature crop, wanting to see if their subsequent changes were as he had hoped. And the answer quickly presented itself: upon seeing the subtle trend of change in the two Mahua farmlands. The corners of his mouth could not help but turn up, and a pleasing prediction arose in his heart. After Shen Xingyan had such a pleasing premonition, Star Origin World did not delay in the slightest and directly displayed the answer with a prompt. Congratulations, you have successfully cast a skill. Farmer Professional Experience +1. Part of the skill's effect on the nearly mature crop has failed. When Shen Xingyan saw his prediction come true, his emotions immediately soared, and a smile once again occupied his face. Then he carefully looked at the failure prompt, which differed by only a few words from the previous one, and excitedly murmured, "Indeed, it's just as I guessed." When a skill cast fails, if there are two kinds of crop, then the two kinds of crop will share the probability of failure again. Doing this, although there is no way to completely prevent both kinds of crop from failing together, under the plan of double dipping, the probability of obtaining the Star Origin Breakthrough record reward daily will be greatly increased. Even when luck is good, the possibility of both breaking through is very high, and it seems that days of receiving 2 rewards in one day are beckoning to me. With his idea verified, Shen Xingyan's mind began to analyze, and as he analyzed, a beautiful scene involuntarily appeared in his mind. However, at this moment, he did not rush to celebrate because of this information. Instead, he looked back and forth between the two Mahua farmlands, wanting to know what price this information required. If his previous prediction was discovered through subtle clues in the crop, then after this prompt appeared, the changes in the two Mahua farmlands became even more immediate and obvious. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell. The moo of nearly mature strawberry farmland made a strange noise, and at the same time, the plants were rapidly changing. The strawberry fruits on the plants were growing larger at a speed visible to the naked eye, looking increasingly delicate and appealing. After a few seconds, it seemed as if the expansion of the fruit reached its limit, and then it began to shrink again. Compared to the visibly changing strawberry, the moo of tomato planted yesterday was still growing as usual, with no abnormalities occurring. Comparing the two, the result was self-evident. Shen Xingyan naturally saw the changes in the two Mahua farmlands and knew that the successful target of this professional skill cast was undoubtedly his moo of strawberry. This result is truly lucky. In a situation of choosing 1 out of 2, the failed target of the skill was the low-value tomato. I guess this result is still due to the luck value I obtained earlier, otherwise it would be impossible for the skill cast to fail, yet only the tomato failed and the strawberry succeeded. After all, the value gap between the two is not insignificant. Thinking about it this way, with the bonus of luck value, even if I'm unlucky enough to experience a skill failure in the future, the final failure won't be too severe. Shen Xingyan watched the changes in the strawberry with joy, subconsciously analyzing. Although this idea lacked data to support it, it gave him a sense of psychological comfort. In the following dozen seconds, under his observation, the skill's effect quickly finished playing out. The Star Origin maintenance prompts began to pour in faster, and a harvestable icon appeared above the strawberry farmland. The next actions were self-evident. However, this time, Shen Xingyan did not need to give orders. Under Wang Kai's overall arrangement, all of the little skeletons moved in an orderly fashion. Every little skeleton seemed eager to try, as if they were finally about to face a direct hard battle. Now, the daily maintenance work for more than 30 little skeletons was completely insufficient to meet their increasing labor force. Only during this period could they exert their full strength. Shen Xingyan looked at the highly motivated little skeletons. Although he knew the current situation, even if all of these prompts were given to the little skeletons, they could barely cope. But to be safe, he still had his clone join the battle, while he began the joyful harvesting work. Standing in the strawberry farmland, Shen Xingyan revealed a slightly evil and charming smile. For him, picking strawberries was impossible. Only simple and brutal uprooting was suitable for him, as this method of harvesting was also the most efficient. A few minutes later, the excited Shen Xingyan completed the harvest of all mature strawberries. At the same time, the Star Origin World's harvest prompt sounded, "Congratulations! You have planted 600 square meters of strawberry this time, with a yield of 960 kilograms, earning 5760 points of farmer professional experience." At this time, Shen Xingyan, whose face was always full of joy, saw that, although it was also delayed by an hour, this harvest was actually 10 kilograms more than the last harvest. While surprised, he couldn't help but say with a realization, "It seems that the longer the time exceeds the crop's own growth cycle, the higher its yield. No wonder I could break the Star Origin record so easily. It turns out there was also this reason. With the existence of the little skeletons, I can ensure the crop's growth within the normal cycle, plus the professional skill that can break the upper limit. The combination of these two factors indeed feels somewhat terrifying." Shen Xingyan thought carefully and couldn't help but sigh. If others had such an invincible combination, he would probably be incredibly jealous, but now it was what he possessed. While feeling fortunate, he was also very curious about how much his original luck value was to be able to obtain these two skills. While Shen Xingyan was sighing, Star Origin World ignored his thoughts and still began to publicize the reward for this record-breaking achievement. For Shen Xingyan, a professional who repeatedly broke records and received rewards, Star Origin seemed to be restricted by its own rules. Even knowing this situation, it did not take any measures. It continued to operate according to the rules. Chapter 134. Congratulations, you have once again broken your record of 935 kilograms of strawberry yield per mu, successfully reaching 960 kilograms. You are specially rewarded with a special skill item. A skill extraction voucher, professional skills, and talent skills are not valid. Star Origin World will make an announcement throughout the region. Would you like to make your information public? While Shen Xingyan was still immersed in the emotion of this harvest, Star Origin World's prompt about breaking the record began to echo throughout the entire planting space. The sounding of the prompt pulled Shen Xingyan out of his contemplation, and only then did he collect himself and focus his attention on this prompt. And after seeing the reward that appeared in the prompt, he was suddenly stunned. Special item skill extraction voucher? What is this thing? Why have I never heard of it before? Shen Xingyan couldn't help but ask this question, and subconsciously began to search for information on this in his mind. However, after searching in vain, he suddenly thought of something. Skill extraction voucher. Can I extract my skill to the real world? After thinking about the literal meaning of these words, Shen Xingyan seemed to be frozen for a moment, and then his eyes immediately began to burn with excitement. With a thought, he quickly opened his attribute panel, and his gaze instantly fell on his only two skills: clone technique and teleportation. Does this mean that with this ticket, I can really extract the skill directly to the real world, without having to painstakingly save money, dreaming of being able to extract these two skills in the future? The appearance of this thought made Shen Xingyan feel a sense of tension all over his body. In his mind, there was a vague feeling of having won a lottery, but not being sure of the size of the prize, that feeling of gain and loss. As if he was afraid that the upcoming reward would deviate from what he had expected. After calming down a little, Shen Xingyan conveyed the thought of cancel announcement, and the 100 silver coins he was holding also disappeared at the same time. Star Origin World also does business with money. The prompt instantly disappeared, followed by a flash of yellow light in front of his eyes, which entered his backpack space. Shen Xingyan, who was already experienced, knew that the reward had already been sent to his backpack space. He gently exhaled a breath and carefully opened his backpack space. In the last slot of the backpack, an ordinary-looking yellow paper was conspicuously placed. If it weren't for the prompt just now, Shen Xingyan would have felt that it was really just a piece of paper. After a little psychological preparation, Shen Xingyan moved his mind, and the attributes of this yellow paper appeared before his eyes. Item. Skill extraction voucher special item quantity. 1 attribute. One-time item can extract a skill owned by the holder to any world. Restriction. Invalid for professional skills and talent skills. Remark. A special item that can transmigrate space. The paper and ink both condense a trace of the original power of Star Origin world. It's real. I can really extract skills to the real world. After Shen Xingyan confirmed the attributes of this item, the tension throughout his body instantly disappeared. And a huge sense of surprise enveloped him, a big smile suddenly appearing on his face. At the same time, a hearty laugh echoed throughout the entire planting space. Wang Kai and the skeletons who were working heard their master's voice and subconsciously looked at him, thinking that their master was about to give some instructions. But after waiting for a while, they only saw their master doing what they considered strange movements by himself, without any intention of giving instructions. Then they looked at their direct superior, Captain Wang Kai. And at this time, Wang Kai, who was working, did not even look up to communicate, yet the other little skeletons seemed to have received instructions and began to continue working. As the earliest little skeleton to follow Shen Xingyan, Wang Kai was already accustomed to his master's unusual behavior. And through his learning during this period, he also knew that this was a way for his master to express happiness. Although he still didn't know how to classify the degree of happiness, his limited intelligence was telling him that as long as his master was here, the emotional fluctuation he felt was happiness. But at this moment, Shen Xingyan didn't care how the little skeletons viewed him, and indulged in his own joy. Although I was very happy when I obtained the clone technique and teleportation skills, I also had immense psychological pressure, because extracting these two skills would definitely not be a small amount of money. And with his current strength, wanting to do this was tantamount to a fool's dream, but extracting skills was an imperative matter. No matter how powerful a skill is, if it cannot be extracted to the real world, the value of that skill will be greatly reduced. Before, I was still planning how long it would take to reach the minimum threshold for extracting skills, but the result was that I had no clue. And now this surprise has arrived so magnificently, it didn't give me any time to prepare mentally. A skill extraction voucher, having this thing is equivalent to having a real treasure trove, which can save me a vast amount of silver coins. Shen Xingyan's excited thoughts were almost uncontrollable. As soon as he thought of the many wonderful uses that would arise if clone technique or teleportation could be extracted to the real world, he felt a burst of excitement. After a long while, Shen Xingyan finally broke free from this emotion. Regarding his previous state of getting carried away, he began to hypocritically criticize himself in his heart. How can I be so surprised? This small reward is simply a world apart from my two powerful skills. Their value is simply incomparable. It's just a small skill ticket, there will be plenty more in the future. Getting so excited every day won't do. There's a risk of heart disease. Next time I encounter such a thing, I need to be calm. It's just a few tens or hundreds of thousands of small silver coins. I need to control my emotions. Shen Xingyan was performing a hypnotic self-criticism, but the smile at the corner of his mouth couldn't be suppressed. Helplessly, he could only temporarily put this matter aside, wanting to use the power of labor to calm this emotion. And the effect of doing so was also very effective. After cultivating 1 mu of land, his mood finally returned to its usual state. However, the next problem he had to face made him a little conflicted. Should he extract clone technique or teleportation? Chapter 135. If I choose clone technique, then later, if I encounter some risky situations, I can send a clone to test the waters first. With remote consciousness feedback and a 2-hour existence time, it's enough to probe the problems of unknown risks, serving as a preventative function. Moreover, as primordial energy increases in the future, the clone's combat power will gradually strengthen, and surpassing the main body will only be a matter of time. At that point, I will have a powerful combat force. Furthermore, regarding the skill teleportation, it is undoubtedly a skill that combines offense, defense, and escape in all aspects. The distance of its teleportation is so great that even with my 18 points of primordial energy in reality, I can instantly move nearly 2 kilometers. If I don't court death, I can basically guarantee my life is safe. Both skills have their uses, but there's only one skill extraction voucher, which indeed makes it difficult for me to choose. Shen Xingyan analyzed the pros and cons of the two skills in his mind, and couldn't help but fall into a state of indecision. However, this emotion only lasted for a moment before the scales in his heart tilted towards teleportation. I'll still choose the teleportation skill. My top priority now is to preserve my life, after all, with two powerful skills. The issue of combat power is only a matter of time, and using the teleportation skill in reality, just thinking about it is appealing. Shen Xingyan, with a somewhat youthful heart nature, was ultimately attracted by the graceful spatial skill of teleportation. Immediately, he made up his mind to use this skill extraction voucher on teleportation. He thought, and the slightly rough but mysteriously resonant yellow paper appeared in his hand. He carefully examined the clearly incomprehensible runes on it. After purchasing paper and pen from the Star Origin Mall, he copied them, following the example. Although he didn't know if these runes would be useful in the future, keeping them was always better safe than sorry. After finishing the copying, he immediately clicked to use it. Please select the skill to extract. 1. Clone technique. 2. Teleportation. As the skill extraction voucher was used, a selection prompt appeared before Shen Xingyan's eyes. Having made up his mind, he unhesitatingly chose the second option. After the selection was complete, the yellow paper in his hand began to float automatically, gently swaying and burning. At the same time, the mysterious runes on it, which Shen Xingyan couldn't understand, seemed to slowly emit a mysterious aura as the burning progressed, little by little enveloping him. A short while later, as the skill extraction voucher finished burning, all the mysterious aura suddenly converged into Shen Xingyan's body. But he himself didn't feel any abnormality, and everything before him returned to calm. Shen Xingyan, who had watched the entire process, silently recorded the scene he had just witnessed. Now, with a calm mind, he didn't rush back to the real world to try out the skill, but instead continued to sow strawberry seeds. Time slowly approached 1:30 a.m. After Shen Xingyan finished sowing the strawberry seeds, seeing that there was still some time left before the tomatoes could be harvested, he didn't stay idle. He joined Wang Kai and the others in the team maintaining the Xingyuan prompts. Now, they were dealing with this wave of maintenance prompts with increasing ease. Compared to the previous embarrassing situation, where the farmland even had triple prompts, it was simply two different scenarios, giving people an indescribably relaxed and comfortable feeling. Still, more skeletons mean greater strength. More than half an hour later, the maintenance prompts began to weaken. Shen Xingyan, feeling completely relaxed, leaned against the edge of the field and sighed, while waiting for the tomatoes to ripen. During this waiting period, he opened his backpack space and sold all the outstanding quality strawberry crops to the Star Origin Mall, receiving 1 gold coin and 157 silver coins. Seeing the gold coins credited, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but smile slightly. This feeling of having gold coins credited every day indeed made him feel incredibly comfortable. Although his harvest might not be comparable to those high-rank combat professionists, he could still easily surpass those 20 or 30-rank combat professionists. He then shifted his attention to the attribute panel. Looking at the severely overflowing experience points, he directly chose to upgrade, raising his professional rank from 14 to 15. Congratulations, your professional rank has been elevated to rank 15. You are rewarded with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, professional skill cooldown time -2%. We hope you continue to strive and improve. Shen Xingyan looked at this prompt, and at the same time felt a refreshing sensation in his body, as if he had received a massage. He nodded with satisfaction. He casually allocated the 4 rewarded free attribute points to primordial energy, then carefully admired the new high on his attribute panel name. Starfire Prairie Shen Xingyan ID, 118,120,431 to 9527 Profession, Farmer Professional Skill. 1. Consumes a certain amount of primordial energy points to increase the growth progress of crops within a specified range by plus 10%. The larger the range, the more primordial energy points consumed. Interval, 10 hours. Skill cooldown, 24 hours minus 19%. Equilibrium force rank 2 rank. Rank 15 experience. 5115/7000 strength. 35 points agility. 35 points physique. 36 points spirit. 31 points free attribute points. 0 points health. 360/360 points primordial energy. 56/56 points primal energy factor plus 0. 8 stamina, 36/36 points physical attack, 38 points spell attack, 34 points defense, 36 points speed, 35 points talent. Summon skeleton summons 3 skeleton monsters with all attributes at 3 for combat cooldown. 24 hours skills. Teleportation, clone technique rare, insight martial skills. Dragon elephant fist entry level, subduing demon staff entry level, gale step entry level origin energy cultivation function. Tranquility skill money. 4 gold 863, silver 500, copper Shen Xingyan expressed great satisfaction with raising his rank to this stage in just over 20 days. After waiting for another 10 minutes, the harvest prompt finally appeared above the tomato farmland. The quick harvest was completed, and the final tomato yield was the same as the first tomato harvest, both being 300 kilograms of ordinary tomatoes. Shen Xingyan directly sold all of them, then quickly finished cultivating this farmland. Looking at the arable land in a plantable state, he began to ponder. I now have a total of 9 farmlands. And to complete the strawberry harvest now, I need to use my professional skill 9 times. Calculating it this way, there should be 1 day that is empty in between. It seems this current farmland needs to be planted with a crop that can mature after using the professional skill 6 times. While thinking this, Shen Xingyan opened the Star Origin Mall and searched for all level 3 crop seeds, checking them one by one to see which one met this requirement. Chapter 136. Shen Xingyan looked at the numerous level 3 crop introductions before him, analyzing the value, time, and convenience of the skeleton's labor for each crop. Ultimately, he fixed his gaze on the yellow soybean, which had a growth cycle of 15 days. Item: yellow soybean seeds value. 1 silver coins 500 copper attributes. Matures in 15 days, cultivable area 600 square meters. After comprehensive consideration, this yellow soybean is still quite suitable. My daily skill acceleration can boost it by 1. 5 days, plus the yellow soybean's natural growth of 1 day, which means the yellow soybean can advance by 2.5 days daily, allowing it to fully mature in exactly 6 days. Furthermore, since it's a 15-day cycle, it won't affect my continued attempts to break through records. And the yellow soybean plant is also relatively short, making it quite suitable for Wang Kai and the other little skeleton's labor. It's simply perfect. Shen Xingyan gently stroked his chin, analyzing the suitability of the yellow soybean in his mind. Finally, he couldn't help but secretly praise it, feeling it was indeed the best choice. Subsequently, he didn't hesitate to purchase it, and together with his clone, quickly planted it. Seeing that his work in the planting space was complete, Shen Xingyan dismissed his clone. He glanced at Wang Kai, who was currently working, and habitually walked over to him, explaining the things that might happen after he left. The little skeletons were already proficient in normal maintenance tasks, so he didn't need to explain much. However, for special maintenance, like fertilizing and random events such as monster invasions, he still needed to give them a reminder. After all, these maintenance tasks had a significant impact on the crop. A single mistake could lead to a complete reduction in yield. Therefore, he emphasized them particularly. But with Wang Kai's presence, he wasn't overly concerned about this. After all, Wang Kai's repeated impressive operations had given him a deep sense of trust, and this was an important reason why he treated Wang Kai differently. Shen Xingyan patted Wang Kai's little straw hat and bid him farewell before excitedly returning to the real world. Wang Kai stared blankly at the spot where his master disappeared for a good while before resuming his labor. Upon returning to the real world, Shen Xingyan immediately became excited and quickly checked his attribute panel in the real world, discovering that the teleportation skill indeed existed there. With a face full of uncontrollable joy, he saw that it was late at night outside. Estimating that there would be virtually no one around at this time, and his chances of being exposed were minimal, he decided to try and experience what ultra-long-distance teleportation felt like. His interest piqued, he instantly had a thought directly consuming half of his primordial energy, and immediately appeared 900 meters from his home, which was already in the outer ring area. It was pitch black all around, with no sign of anyone. Experiencing this feeling of transmigration through space for the first time in the real world, Shen Xingyan almost shouted in excitement, but fortunately, he managed to hold back in time. However, he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, "This skill is simply too cool. It can ignore any obstacles and directly appear at the predetermined location." In front of this skill, all alarm systems seem like a joke, completely unresponsive. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan, who was somewhat emotional, couldn't help but feel a little scared. It's a good thing I chose to keep a low profile after obtaining two powerful skills and didn't expose myself. Otherwise, if someone with this ability targeted me, I might not even know how I died. It's too terrifying. Shen Xingyan gently shook his head, his resolve to act steadily and discreetly in the future growing even stronger. After the teleportation skill's 10-second cooldown completed, Shen Xingyan instantly moved back to the underground training room. Feeling much safer at home, and thinking he should be even more discreet in the future. Let's continue training. The sooner I become strong, the less I'll have to worry about so many things when I act in the future. Thinking this, Shen Xingyan also roused his spirits and immediately began his new round of training for the day. Now, an hour of his training could increase the power of balance by 2%, and with a normal 12 hours of training per day, that was equivalent to gaining 1 attribute point. Such an improvement was incredibly tempting to anyone, and Shen Xingyan was no exception. At this moment, he wished he could train 24 hours a day, as that would be a full 2 attribute points. Driven by the attribute points, Shen Xingyan acted on his thoughts, training from nearly 3 a.m. until 3 p.m. He only took a quick breakfast with his sister, dedicating all other time to training. And under his tireless training, the final results were very pleasing. The power of balance's progress reached 32%, already 1/3 of what was needed for an upgrade. Shen Xingyan saw that the cooldown for his comprehension skill was almost over, and only then did he have to stop his training and adjust his state. As a catalyst for increasing training speed, the insight time could not be delayed due to other factors. That would be more loss than gain. Shen Xingyan, who had temporarily stopped training, quickly went to the kitchen and devoured the energy-replenishing food without worrying about his digestion. After all, no matter how much energy he consumed, he would be able to digest it all during the upcoming training, simply because his consumption in the insight state was much higher than usual. As the cooldown for the insight skill approached, he quickly returned to the training room, slowly adjusting his state. By the time the cooldown completed, his state was also almost adjusted. Seeing this, he didn't hesitate at all. With a thought, he instantly entered the insight state. Under the blessing of the insight skill, in 1 hour, his understanding of the power of balance's movements deepened, and the rhythm of his movements vaguely became more vibrant. After the insight period ended, his training progress per hour increased by another 0.5%, reaching 2.5%. Now, he only needed to train for 10 hours to gain 1 attribute point. Shen Xingyan had no resistance to such a great temptation. After another 3 hours of training, he pushed the progress to 59.5%. On the second day of the Power of Balance's upgrade, Shen Xingyan completed more than half of its progress. It must be said that his training intensity truly lived up to the word crazy. Chapter 137. After dinner, Shen Xingyan, exhausted from long hours of training, collapsed directly onto his bed the moment he returned to his room. With a thought, his star origin card automatically affixed itself to his forehead, and his consciousness directly connected into the star origin world. Standing in the planting space, Shen Xingyan activated his skill, and 3 little skeletons emerged from the ground. With their addition, the total number of little skeletons reached 46, just shy of 50. At this point, clearly fatigued, Shen Xingyan didn't bother inspecting the farmland. He felt completely at ease knowing that his capable subordinate, Wang Kai, was managing everything. After using his skill, he immediately entered a state of cultivation by the farmland. According to his estimation, midnight tonight was a suitable time to harvest the 4th strawberry farmland. After that, he would begin a new day of labor and training, so he didn't have much time left to rest. As soon as Shen Xingyan selected 6 hours for his cultivation, he almost instantly fell into a deep sleep. Not long after, Wang Kai finished training the 3 new little skeletons and sent them off to work on their own. With Lei Fu and Lei Qian overseeing the farmland and an excess of labor, Wang Kai, who was managing the overall situation, did not continue working but instead walked over to his master. Seeing his master sleeping peacefully, Wang Kai recalled his master's previous instruction to also rest when he had time. Following his master's example, he gently lay down not far from his master, as if he too was beginning his closed-eye rest. In this peculiar rest of one person and one skeleton, time flowed by leisurely. When Shen Xingyan awoke from his meditative state, it was already midnight. Just having woken up, Shen Xingyan felt all his previous fatigue vanish, and he became completely refreshed. He knew that his current state was due to sleeping in the star origin world, where the speed of energy recovery was much faster than in the real world. Otherwise, it would be difficult to fully recover the energy consumed by over 10 hours of training and labor so quickly in reality. At this moment, full of energy, Shen Xingyan had just stretched his body when he saw Wang Kai sitting beside him in an odd posture, and a smile involuntarily appeared on his face. It was the first time he had seen Wang Kai perform such a human-like action, and he found it incredibly novel. Far from scolding Wang Kai for learning to slack off, Shen Xingyan felt a wave of profound relief, believing it to be a sign of intelligence. That's right, rest well and maintain your current intelligence. The planting space will definitely grow larger in the future. And I'll have to rely on you when I'm not around, so you can't get worn out. Shen Xingyan praised Wang Kai. In the future, with the increase in farmlands and the demands of training in the real world, it was foreseeable that most matters in the planting space would need to be handed over to Wang Kai and the skeletons. He would at most only play a guiding role. And as the leader of all the skeletons, the intelligent Wang Kai would undoubtedly be a powerful core, so maintaining his intelligence was crucial. Having received his master's praise, Wang Kai understood in his consciousness that his recent behavior could make his master happy, and he decided to do more of it in the future. After praising Wang Kai, Shen Xingyan stood up and began the day's main business. He took out his novice staff, and primordial energy began to surge within him. A few seconds later, his clone was generated. Although the current scale of the little skeletons was already sufficient to handle the Star Origin's accelerated maintenance prompts. However, Shen Xingyan felt that if he had a clone skill, he should use it. In case of a monster invasion during this period, he and his clone could quickly resolve it. After taking the potion, his primordial energy slowly recovered to full again. Shen Xingyan looked at the farmer's skill, which had long since cooled down, and without further delay, he activated it directly. 45 points of primordial energy began to gather at the tip of the staff. At this moment, the familiar warning prompt sounded again. Ding tilde, it is detected that you are casting a farmer's skill on some crops that are about to mature. There is a possibility of failure for this part of the crops. Do you wish to continue? Shen Xingyan looked at the 4th strawberry and calculated briefly in his mind. A skill failure had occurred last time, so it shouldn't happen twice in a row. Coupled with his luck value bonus, the probability of successful skill activation this time was even greater. Thinking this, he nodded with a slight smile, indicating to the prompt that he could continue casting. As he confirmed, the accumulated primordial energy instantly left his body, covering the entire farmland. All the crops under the farmer skill seemed to be nourished, beginning to sway as if expressing excitement. Shen Xingyan, who was already intimately familiar with this situation, paid it no mind. His gaze went directly to the target farmland for this time, the 4th strawberry. Congratulations, you have successfully used the farmer skill. Farmer profession experience +1. Shen Xingyan had just noticed the signs of the strawberry's impending growth when the star origins prompt appeared simultaneously in his ear. Seeing that the final result matched his expectations, he slowly breathed a sigh of relief, once again thanking his luck attribute. And the luck attribute seemed to have received this gratitude, directly arranging a monster invasion for him, making Shen Xingyan's previous what-if come true again. Ding tilde, it is detected that there is an alien species invasion in your planting space. Please deal with it in time to avoid significant losses. Upon seeing this prompt, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but smile wryly, feeling that he should avoid thinking about what-ifs in the future. He had truly experienced the mysterious unpredictability of the luck attribute. Wang Kai, you all continue working. My clone and I will deal with this wave of monsters. Shen Xingyan said, then led his clone to meet the invaders. Eager to confront the little monsters, Shen Xingyan did not notice Wang Kai raising his bone hand in a hesitant gesture, as if it also wanted to join the battle. However, with Shen Xingyan's command, despite Wang Kai's reluctance, he still followed the order and began to arrange the other little skeletons. For this invasion of little rabbits, with Shen Xingyan and his clone's attributes, it only took a few minutes to eliminate all of them. It was only because of the huge number of rabbits. Otherwise, the battle would have ended even faster. Chapter 138. After all the monsters were eliminated, Shen Xingyan had his clone continue with the farmland maintenance while he began the day's strawberry harvest. He walked cheerfully to the strawberry farmland that showed it was ready for harvest, instinctively rubbed his hands, and looked at the ripe strawberries with a smile, his eyes shining with an unusual gleam. It was only because he was currently facing a plot of crop and not something else. If it had been a beautiful young woman, seeing Shen Xingyan with such an expression, even if he was a bit handsome, she would probably have screamed pervert and fled in terror. Shen Xingyan, however, was oblivious to his current state. He merely said to himself joyfully, "Let's get started, let's get started. I wonder what kind of surprise the Star Origin World's reward will bring me this time." Shen Xingyan whispered his anticipation, and at the same time, his hands began to move. To speed up the harvest, he directly activated Gale Step to assist himself, which boosted his original 35 speed to 45, clearly showing the increase in efficiency. After Shen Xingyan's somewhat rough yet meticulous uprooting action, the strawberries were harvested smoothly without any issues, and the entire farmland became clean, without a trace of any plants. At this moment, Shen Xingyan, who had just straightened his back, heard the Star Origin's harvest notification as expected. Congratulations! You have planted 600 square meters of strawberry this time, with a yield of 1,000 kilograms, earning 6,000 farmer profession experience points. Shen Xingyan simply nodded slightly at the notification. Having already known that the yield would reach a new high, he appeared very calm at this moment, as if a leader inspecting work had seen the expected results, expressing his satisfaction with the notification. He was not surprised by the fact that this yield increase was even greater than the previous 35 kilograms. After all, through the previous harvest, he had already roughly guessed the pattern. The longer the time exceeded the natural growth cycle, the faster the yield would increase. The harvest notifications slowly disappeared, but Shen Xingyan did not turn to other matters. Instead, he looked up at the sky, waiting for the main event to come. And the Star Origin World did not disappoint his expectations. After making him wait for more than 10 seconds as per usual, the breakthrough record notification followed. Congratulations! You have once again broken your current record of 960 kilograms of strawberry per moo, successfully reaching 1,000 kilograms. You are specially rewarded with one talent skill growth stone. Star Origin will make an announcement across the entire region. Would you like to make the information public? When Shen Xingyan saw that the talent stone reward had appeared again after many days, his originally slight smile immediately broadened. The emotional contagiousness also increased exponentially. This time's reward is again the lovely talent stone. Star Origin world truly treats me well. Every reward makes me feel so pleasant and comfortable. Shen Xingyan couldn't help but exclaim softly, but his hands didn't stop moving at all. He quickly and consciously paid 100 silver coins to cancel the world announcement, then put the talent stone, coveted by the entire world, into his bag. It's just that in recent rewards, the farmland rewards have been a bit scarce, which has temporarily left my well-researched wool shearing plan 2.0 without a place to be used. It feels a bit regrettable. Shen Xingyan looked at the black item in his backpack space, feeling both happy and slightly regretful. However, this thought disappeared in an instant. With such a reward, whether I have a farmland or not is no longer that important. At worst, when I have money later, I'll just buy more farmlands. Shen Xingyan shook his head with a smile, feeling that he was truly being a bit ungrateful. For other peasant professional, buying a single farmland might require several or even more than 10 years of struggle to save enough money. But for him, it was not a big problem. After all, at his current elementary stage, he could earn 1 gold coin every day, and he would definitely earn more in the future. In the future, the value of the crop harvested in a single day might even be enough to purchase a farmland, and that was just a matter of time. Shen Xingyan thought confidently, his eyes carefully observing the charming exterior of the talent stone. He then forcibly controlled his urge to use it immediately and carefully placed it back into his backpack space. Previous experience told him that every time he used a talent stone, he would be forced to return to the real world. And currently, he still had some unfinished business in the Star Origin world. Shen Xingyan called his clone over, and together they cultivated this plot of farmland, then quickly planted the strawberry seeds. The time had now reached almost 12:30 a.m. Shen Xingyan recorded this time to help him control future harvest times. He then had his clone continue to deal with the Star Origin's maintenance notifications, while he paused briefly, separated the crop in his backpack space, and sold all of it to the Star Origin Mall, ultimately receiving 1 gold, 205 silver, and 500 copper coins. After today's money was credited, his total assets reached nearly 6 gold coins. Looking at the golden numbers shining brightly in his wallet, Shen Xingyan couldn't stop smiling. This feeling of having grain in hand and no panic in heart made him feel very secure. After dealing with the crop, Shen Xingyan looked at the experience bar in his attribute panel. This strawberry harvest earned him 6,000 profession experience points, which once again pushed his total experience beyond 10,000, enough to meet the rank increase for this stage. He immediately, without delay with a thought, raised his rank to 16. Congratulations, your profession rank has been raised to 16. You are rewarded with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, profession skill cooldown -2%. We hope you continue to strive and improve. Shen Xingyan thoroughly appreciated his comprehensively improved attributes after upgrading to rank 16. Then conveniently added 4 free attribute points to primordial energy, increasing his primordial energy cap in the Star Origin world to 60 points. I estimate that before the trial begins, I'll be able to perform my first attribute extraction. It always feels like a loss not to extract so many attribute points into the real world. Chapter 139. Shen Xingyan looked at the abundance of attribute points waiting to be extracted and couldn't help but sigh softly, while his desire to earn money grew even more urgent. He wished he could start planting spirit rank seeds right now, using his professional skill to quickly ripen them. At that time, the spirit rank crops produced by one farmland would be incomparable to the few gold coins he had now. It would at least be thousands or tens of thousands of gold coins. However, he also knew his current situation. Not only was he unable to plant advanced seeds due to rank limitations, but even if he could plant such high-rank crops, the final outcome would not be optimistic. After all, with the labor he currently possessed, planting such advanced crops would probably only result in task stagnation and growth cessation. It would be even more embarrassing than when he first started planting level 3 crops. I still have to take it one step at a time. You can't get fat in one bite. Shen Xingyan comforted himself. Then, he looked at his clone and Wang Kai, who were working on the farmland. At the same time, a thought flashed, and he activated the teleportation skill, joining the team maintaining the star origin prompts. More than half an hour later, seeing that the star origin maintenance prompts gradually returned to their normal frequency, he finally truly relaxed. Before, when I and Wang Kai worked tirelessly, it still took nearly 2 hours to deal with this fierce wave of prompts. Now it's good. The current labor force not only handles it more easily, but the time has even been shortened to just over an hour. The comparison between before and now is truly two different situations. After Shen Xingyan sighed softly and saw that the planting space temporarily didn't need him, he quickly gave Wang Kai a few instructions. Then, his desire to improve his talent could no longer be suppressed. He quickly took the talent stone from his backpack space and, with a thought, conveyed the idea of using this stone, which could simultaneously enhance talent, to it. Immediately, he felt a sudden blackness before his eyes, and his body directly disappeared from the planting space. If it were a professional who encountered a talent stone for the first time after such a situation occurred, they would probably feel a wave of panic. After all, a talent stone is such a precious item. If something went wrong due to his improper operation, the resulting loss would probably make him want to die. However, Shen Xingyan, who had experienced this situation twice, was not flustered at all. In fact, he even felt a little excited. Of course, his excitement was not because he was kicked out of the Star Origin world, but because of his improved talent skill. As his mind began to check the attribute panel in his Star Origin card, he saw that the skill description in the talent skill column had changed again talent. Summon Skeleton summons 4 skeleton monsters with all attributes at 4 for combat cooldown, 24 hours. Seeing that the number and attributes of the little skeleton had indeed improved as he had guessed, the smile on his face could not be hidden at all. I can summon 4 skeletons with all attributes at 4 every day. My skeleton army's improvement speed has taken another big step forward, Shen Xingyan thought excitedly. However, my initial talent is still too weak. After using 3 talent skill growth stones, it has only grown to this extent. Skeletons with all attributes at 4 are still not enough on the battlefield. If it weren't for me developing a new mode of skeletons helping with farming, other professionals, after getting this talent skill, would have definitely thrown it aside in disdain, because on the surface, its attributes are simply too useless. Even if others had talent stones, they probably wouldn't think about upgrading such a talent. Shen Xingyan shook his head with a sigh, thinking that if the attributes of the little skeletons had been a few points higher when he first obtained the talent skill, then after 3 talent upgrades, Wang Kai and the skeletons might have had over a dozen points in all their attributes by now. The effect of their labor and combat would definitely be a different sight. After a slight moment of regret, Shen Xingyan put those thoughts aside. Since it's already a done deal, thinking about so many what-ifs is useless. It only wears down one's current drive, and it's quite good now. After this talent upgrade, with all their attributes at 4 points, I no longer need to participate much in the maintenance work. Aside from the necessary origin energy cultivation and rest in the Star Origin world, I can now focus all my attention on improving in the real world. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan looked at the equilibrium force on his attribute panel, which had already reached 59.5%. According to normal calculations, I should be able to raise power of equilibrium to level 3 today, and then all my attributes can be increased by 1 point again. I wonder how the equilibrium force's improvement speed will be after the upgrade. The more Shen Xingyan thought about it, the more excited he became. And he didn't hesitate to directly activate teleportation, flashing directly to the underground training room. Although such a short distance consumed 1 primordial energy point, not maximizing its value, the feeling of instantly arriving at another place is still quite satisfying. That sense of wonder brought by spatial changes is indeed somewhat addictive. When I become stronger in the future, directly using the teleportation skill to travel, that scene just sounds cool. Shen Xingyan secretly felt a little pleased in his heart, then slightly calmed his mind and began his training for the day. Shen Xingyan, who had some potential for being a training fanatic, felt time pass very quickly once he started training, guided by the comfortable movements of equilibrium force. He himself was also a person who could endure loneliness. Otherwise, he would not have reached the point of full attribute awakening under such disadvantaged circumstances before. Several factors combined to make Shen Xingyan's training very focused. He trained until almost 3 in the afternoon, stopping only when his alarm clock reminded him. Slightly out of breath, he took out his star origin card and checked the progress of equilibrium force. Upon finding that it had reached 89%, he felt a great sense of accomplishment. After an hour of insight, raising power of equilibrium to level 3 is a sure thing. To gain 4 attribute points in 2 days, that was truly unimaginable for my former self. It's absolutely insane. Chapter 140. Shen Xingyan thought about what was about to happen, and his energy, which had been slightly fatigued from over 10 hours of training, instantly revitalized, making him feel full of vigor again. He went to the kitchen to replenish the energy his body needed, preparing for the upcoming consumption during his insight period. At the same time, he adjusted himself while waiting for the comprehension skills cooldown to end. However, Shen Xingyan, who hadn't left his home much for several days, was unaware that the situation at the border was becoming increasingly tense. At the border crossing in the northern district, due to the extremely rich resources of the extraterritorial world, many powerful combat professionists would form teams to explore, kill disasters, and earn military merits and money. The base naturally greatly encouraged such behavior, which led to a large number of combat professionists entering and exiting this area. However, in recent days, their numbers had significantly decreased, and the remaining individuals who returned often appeared somewhat disheveled, with a noticeable increase in combat professional casualties. "Sir, those damned guys have been endlessly launching sneak attacks recently. Our human energy can't compare to these beasts. Many warriors are now making frequent mistakes in combat due to insufficient energy, and our losses are growing." On the city wall at the border, a well-equipped officer couldn't help but complain to the robed officer beside him. "I understand the situation. Don't worry, I've already reported it to the higher-ups. The experts from the Central District will be coming here in a few days to help us combat the enemy. You all just hold on a little longer. Once this wave passes, I'll put in a good word for you all." Although the robed officer's face showed some worry, he still exuded a very steady demeanor. His words also greatly reassured the officer. Experts from the Central District. Why would experts from the Central District come here? The officer couldn't help but ask with doubt. One must know that those who could be called experts from the Central District truly deserved the title of expert in terms of their strength. After all, in the Central District, where status was determined by strength and military merits, the competition was incomparable to their small northern district. And to be called an expert there, their strength was undoubtedly powerful beyond dispute. Thinking that he would soon see such individuals, the officer's face couldn't help but reveal a look of yearning. The robed officer, upon hearing his subordinate's question, chuckled softly and slowly said, "This is thanks to the recent trials held by the schools. Every year, the Central District schools conduct their trials by selecting locations in the other 4 districts. And this year, the trial location for the prodigies from the Central District has fallen to our Northern District. Although it's called a trial, we all know that its purpose is merely to let these children gain experience beforehand. Safety is always the top priority, no matter what. But unfortunately, we just happen to have this abnormal situation with the monsters here. As soon as this situation was reported, the people from the Central District couldn't sit still, fearing that their children might suffer some mishap here. So they enthusiastically came to help stabilize the situation and adjust the trial environment here in advance. After all, everyone cares about their own children. We can be considered to have benefited from this and can safely get through this wave of combat. As the robed officer spoke, a hint of relief crept into his tone. After all, if they had to rely solely on the Northern District's strength to quell this wave of disasters, although it could be barely accomplished, the cost would be too great. He knew the border situation in the Northern District better than anyone recently. He hadn't seen such a high level of disaster activity in many years. This also caused a faint, ominous premonition in his heart. But with the specific situation unclear, he couldn't report based on a premonition. Moreover, even if he reported it, the outcome might not necessarily lead to effective handling. After all, after more than 100 years of war history, those weary experts would not easily make a move unless absolutely necessary. It was fortunate that this time there was the school's trial arrangement, which allowed some people from the Central District to come and assist, which also put him at ease. Upon hearing this reason, the officer also showed a look of sudden realization. At the same time, his resolve to quickly accumulate military merits and send his own children to the Central District grew even stronger. Shen Xingyan, who was currently in the underground cultivation room, naturally didn't know about this situation. At this moment, seeing that the comprehension skills cooldown had completed, he unhesitatingly activated it. As the insight period began, the transparent figure in his mind also appeared simultaneously. However, the transparent figure's movements were now increasingly difficult for Shen Xingyan to comprehend. As if the transparent figure had already deduced the power of equilibrium to another level, a level he currently couldn't understand. But with his current comprehension ability, he couldn't grasp the profound meaning within it for a while, and could only slowly grind it out with time. I still need to extract the primordial energy quickly. Otherwise, this feeling of not being able to grasp it is truly agonizing. At this moment, Shen Xingyan immensely hoped to extract all the primordial energy points from the star origin world. However, reality told him that he could dream about it, but he couldn't do it because he had no money. As the insight period reached its halfway point, Shen Xingyan felt a comfortable sensation spread throughout his body, almost identical to the feeling he had when leveling up in the star origin world before. And he naturally understood the specific reason for this situation. The power of balance had leveled up. But he didn't stop his training and remained immersed in the insight training. It wasn't until the 1-hour insight period ended that he slowly stopped his movements, which carried a hint of divine essence. After exhaling a long breath, a refreshed Shen Xingyan took out his star origin card and checked his real-world attribute panel, Power of Balance Level 3. Passive, 4 fixed attributes plus 3 active. Consumes 6 points of primordial energy, activates the equilibrium force. Can temporarily transfer 6 attribute points to a designated attribute, lasts for 2 minutes, cooldown 10 minutes. Current progress, 9% strength, 17 points agility, 17 points physique, 18 points spirit, 13 points. Except for primordial energy, all other attributes on the attribute panel had increased. And all of this was within Shen Xingyan's expectations, so he wasn't particularly surprised. However, what truly surprised him was the power of equilibrium's 9% progress. According to the calculation of gaining 20% progress for 1 hour of insight, adding my previous 89% progress, it's exactly 9% after leveling up. Does that mean the difficulty of leveling up level 3 power of equilibrium is the same as when it was level 2? Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates and new uploads.